Foreplay, presented by Barstool Sports. We got the entire squad today, myself, Trent, Frankie, and Lurch, Player Impact Program. So the PIP, this was just released this morning before we started recording. The results, basically all the results of the top 10. They even came out with a little bit of data that we could break down, and it's obviously been an enormous point of contention, debate, chatter over the last year and a half, however long it's been. Tiger Woods won it, so a little spoiler right there. But we got a lot to get to, and then we have Dr. Jim Afremow on this very show, who, to not beat around the bush, we brought him on to kind of diagnose Frankie and see if he could, help Frankie and his chipping situation, butter knives. And he actually began, I think, by saying, I heard we're going to put Frankie on the couch today. So, Frankie, how do you think it went with Dr. Jim Afremow?
It's my first time speaking with a professional in that field.
Mm-hmm.
It was a little nerve-wracking going into it because I thought it's kind of like going to a doctor where you're about to get all your blood taken and they're about to do a stress test on your heart. You feel like once it's done, they're going to take you straight to the hospital. You're never going to be able to come out. You're never going to be able to see your family again. It's over. I was thinking once I start this process, it's done. He's going to see that I'm broken, I'm damaged, I'm no good anymore, and that I need to go into his office and where I'm not going to leave until he fixes my brain. Turns out he's a super nice guy, really, down to earth, easy to talk to, which I guess is why he's so good at his job. It was really interesting, man. He has a very simple way of thinking about life, and it's amazing how often we as normal people that don't have that thought process and all that knowledge in our brain about how the brain works and the mind works, that we just do the opposite of how he thinks and how he preaches. At one point, he said, I do the exact opposite of everything he teaches, he said. So it's going to be an interesting world that I'm about to be living in with this fixing Frankie stuff and seeing how we can piece together what my program is going to look like. But this first introduction to this world, I thought was a really positive one. I thought this guy was awesome. And there's a lot that we all can learn from it. And, it's really interesting. Trent and Lurch weren't on that call. You guys are going to have to listen back. It was really eye-opening how much this guy can help you just by saying certain things, like, why are you thinking that way? It's amazing.
He really hit on some things that I think everyone that's not good at golf will feel like he's talking directly to you and about things that you've been through, and you'll feel a little creeped out that it's like he's crawling into your brain in those moments. And golf's such an interesting one because obviously all the cliches of golf ball doesn't move. It's just sitting there. It's mental. Golf's played in the 4 inches or whatever it is between the space of your ears, all those cliches from golf. But it's true because almost any other sport that you do, I would say you're actually pretty competent at if you're doing it. Like when you play roller hockey, Frank, even though you were new to it, like you can skate around and pass the puck and score if you're left wide open on your forehand, and like you can feel pretty confident about the way that you're doing it. In basketball, like you're out there, you could dribble and pass and like make a layup if you play basketball pretty frequently. Like you could fucking do those things. You could throw a baseball to someone that's 20 yards away from you. You could throw a football with a decent spiral. Like you could do most of those things pretty well. Golf, most people that play it suck at it and hit horrible shots all the time. And so his actually, breaking down the fact that from a physical standpoint, we can hit the shots. We can go to the driving range and hit the shots. We can, during a round of golf, hit that one shot that keeps you coming back. Another cliche. Why don't we do it all the time? And he's like, of course, a lot of that is going to be working on your actual mental game. Like, why wouldn't you work on your brain? You work on your golf swing. You work on muscle memory. You work on getting stronger if you're trying to be into fitness. You work on, your cardio if you're really trying to improve your overall health and your heart rate and all those things. Why wouldn't you work on your fucking brain and the mental approach if you're trying to improve golf when that's such a big part of it? So he went through a lot of that. He also told stories about, working with a college baseball catcher who could throw somebody out at second base, but could not throw the ball back to the pitcher. Like he literally had the yips of throwing the ball back to the pitcher. And so those types of fascinating, mental kind of disconnections and then working with people to get through those things and how he did it. It was really, really interesting conversation. I think people are going to like it.
I'm looking forward to listening, honestly, because if there's one guy in this room that's it's always interesting to peel the covers back behind Frankie's head of what you're thinking, what's wrong with that thought. Sometimes it's obvious, it's I think I can't wait to listen. I'm bummer to miss that one, but yeah, we're flying out west, so that'll be an easy download, easy listen, and laugh about Frankie's choices. I think the other day on the range, Frankie, we were hitting balls right before the Oklahoma match, and we're like, no, Frankie, we believe you can do it. And then you'd stripe him, and then when your mental side was like, dude, I'm not sure about this, just be a cold shank. So it's like that simple difference in your mind is amazing. And that's going to be an amazing series, an amazing listen of like how wrong you are in different spots.
Well, one of the things we started, I didn't want it to be that I was his patient, because that's what the series is going to be. We kind of just wanted to get an introduction to that world. Like what is the world of mental thinking on the golf, in the golf world and all that stuff, right?
Can't even
Jesus
say
Christ.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So
at one
foreign
point
to you're like Jim Carrey in Liar Liar when he like can't say that the pin is blue.
No.
That's like
I just couldn't do it.
can't write it.
I started to kind of bleed out the way I think and my process, and at one point I was like, I'm just so self-deprecating, and when I step up to a wedge shot, the first thing I say to every single person around is watch out. And he's just kind of shaking his head, being like, this is everything I teach against. You're already setting the tone for negativity and for failure and for self-deprecation and just for negativity in your own brain. It's just like, fuck, man. I took a real thought after that. I took a real moment of thinking after that podcast, being like, do I have to stop making fun of myself as much as I do? Because I do like that. It's my personality. I enjoy it. I'm doing it to you guys right now. I'm having a therapy session. Like, I enjoy making fun of myself. It's like one of my things that I do. Do I have to stop that to hit better chips? I don't know. It's kind of crazy.
You can make fun of yourself, I think, but when you settle over the ball, like the humor is amazing, but when you settle over the ball, there has to be a piece of you that's like, even if you don't say it out loud. And I think this is like the big miss on Bryson in terms of how he communicates to people and not humanizing himself. Is like when you're over the ball, you have to be like, I can do this, or else it's just like, why are you even out here?
When I'm over a ball, I say, oh boy. I say, oh boy. Like, oh,
and that
boy.
could honestly be the fundamental difference between you at the driving range and nobody, because you're just in your own head. And you're like, all right, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. Or maybe there's a small thought of that. But when there's people around, or you have to execute to get a score, to make a 4, to make, a 5, save a bogey, you're just like, dude, I'm in a bad spot. And that's really bad.
But it was really interesting, Lurch, because of how much the stuff that he spoke about and preached about, we all do horribly. I mean, he, like Frankie saying, like believing, like saying to yourself, I can do this, or like I'm going to do this, and then visualizing yourself hitting that shot really well, like you did on the practice chipping green for a while, is really no different than, a lot of times we stand over, and one of your lines, Lurch, was like, I had no plan there, and you stand over, a 110-yard shot, and literally as you're pulling the club back, like, I'm thinking like, man, I wish we would change that song. I really don't love that song. And him being like, yo, you need like a mental routine, because if you go through a physical routine each shot that gets you in the right spot and then you hit it, but your mental routine is not the same, you might as well not do anything. Like, you might as well be on another planet or be a different person playing a different game. Like, you need to train yourself to be in that right mental state. And it doesn't have to be for 2.5 minutes, but even for those like 5 seconds before you pull it back, and then as you hit the shot, like being in that consistent and positive like mindset is everything. It's the entire difference. And him kind of talking through that and how there's science and proof and evidence of that working was like, dude, so many shots I hit, I'm thinking about something so different than what I'm actually trying to do or what I should be thinking about. And so then he gets to Frankie, and it's obviously magnified, and the whole thing's a lot more funny. But you're right, Frankie. I almost started thinking as he was saying that, like, does Frankie need to stop making fun of himself, or is he incapable of getting good at golf or around the greens if he makes fun of himself? Is that not? You can't do those two things at the same time.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. And I think that's what the series is going to try and uncover. And at the end of it, if I have to stop making fun of myself, maybe I'll be a healthier person and I'll be better, better person to go to dinner with, and like just just not even that, just like a better person overall. Like maybe this will just help me in all aspects of life. So it's fun to dive deep into this world.
I will say shout out to the Higgs video too, because it is like within this, and go watch that if you haven't. We did so many videos that day that I actually forgot a lot of what he said, And we're playing some outrageous golf this weekend that I believe we'll probably get into. Maybe just touch on it a little bit about what's
Dad Bod
what's to
Classic,
come.
baby. We'll get into that.
Yeah, but the Higgs idea of just the plan with regards to field goals is what I'm going to strive for this weekend when we play, of like acceptable field goals to get into that allowance. And I want to see if I can do that for 84 shots, or I guess like 42 if you're talking about putting or something like that. Of just like keep hitting the field goal and have a goal to everything. And because what we were talking about Higgs is like, dude, I just look at the flag and just fire at it, and there could be a horrible spot to fire, or fire long of the flag and like find that landing zone. So I mean, we've said this before, but like field goals, I like that like basic message and be okay with it.
You anticipating 42 putts around at the DBC or what?
I think that's about right. I think that's like
For you, yeah, I think that's probably standard.
I think if I go out and
So
play
many
golf,
putts.
I just associate half of my strokes are putts.
You were like, man, I can't wait to do this new mental approach to golf, this course management.
that's
you know,
right.
for 42
so bad.
for 42 putts, I'll have 42
it's a
putts for
hard-
sure. So maybe for 42 swings, I'll be able to hit the field goals.
God, that's so
Dude,
bad.
if you hit
When
the field
pull
goals,
that
you'll have
cover
way less
back-
putt. If you hit
when
the
you
field
pull
goals,
the-
you'll hit.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, potentially, yes. So that is like my mental tick where I need to have optimism around putting, which is a mess. But I mean, now that you
It's a
pull
hard-
that cover back, I'm just as bad as you when you talk
Yeah,
about
it's
putting.
scary.
It's like,
a
Oh,
hard
yeah,
game
I
to
mean,
change.
there's no doubt
Oh.
about that.
Dude, I think
It's
we
hard-
all are. That's one of the biggest
Totally.
reasons for doing this series
Right.
and talking to this guy. Is like, I think no
Right.
one thinks about this stuff. We all just go out and golf. We go to the driving range. We hit a million balls. We go to the chipping range. We hit a million chips. We putt. We think we're good golfers. We spend so much money on clubs and gear and memberships and all this shit. And no one thinks about actually how to play the game and all the things we're thinking about. There's a reason why certain guys go pro and certain guys don't. It's because they just know how to do the mental stuff. I just had one of my buddies just texted me and was like, it's amazing how much knowledge Harry Higgs just has and we don't. Like, why does he know that stuff and we don't? Why does he know that when the wind is behind your back, it doesn't draw as much and stuff like that? You know what I mean? Like, why is there all this knowledge about the game of golf? And is that what separates him? Like, Riggs already made the point that we all could physically do it at some level. They're not superhuman. I mean, Harry Higgs is like a big, beautiful boy. I mean, he's no fucking superhuman. At the end of the day, it's not like he was born with any ridiculous physical attributes that we can't achieve. He just knows stuff and is able to unlock certain things in his brain that we can't. So why aren't we all taking something from that and learning and we'll be better? Hello?
Yeah.
Riggs and I were having that conversation about like when we do these 4-man scrambles of, is it impressive or is it wildly like pathetic that there's 4 of us versus 1? And his take was much different than which I actually was like, oh, that is kind of interesting. He was like, I actually sometimes think, and Riggs, you can talk to it, was like, it's amazing that we can compete with them because we are, 1 out of 4 hitting the shot that they're kind of hitting to get to a similar or better score, sometimes worse. And that like paradox of like, yeah, well, there's 4 of us, so we should be able to, but they're the best in the world at it. And we are like 25% of the time doing that is somewhat wildly like impressive to me.
It was a fascinating conversation, and it was weird because it felt like we were both right. And there was no real way to, this was in the car ride after the Max Homa match, and we were debating, like, is it embarrassing that we have really tight matches and don't blow these guys out, that we get 4 attempts for every one of theirs? Or is it incredibly impressive that we're just 4 average Joe Schmoes and we can compete and almost defeat them and post the same score? And Lurch was basically like, it's pretty pathetic. And I was like, I think it's kind of really impressive. And I want to get into that. First, we got to get into Anamules. I'm actually looking through some of these. I know Frankie mentioned just having fun earlier versus grinding and being in some crazy mental state. Maybe life will be more fun. Enter Anamules. I played with these guys. I'm going through right now. Okay, here's a camel. You get a camel if the ball lands in a sand trap. You get a dolphin if the ball skips across the water 3 or more times. So instead of focusing only on your score and being in some boring trap, playing golf the same way you've always played, you can play Anamules. You can download this puppy for free. And then every time you hit one of these shots, you acquire an Anamule. Whoever has the most Anamules whenever the beverage cart rolls around, well, you owe the group around or drinks. Beverage cart might come every 2 holes, it might come every 8 holes. You just don't really know. So it's a completely different way of playing. And again, it just introduces all kinds of cool terminology, funny terminology. The rock lobster, okay, you can acquire the rock lobster if the ball hits a rock. Snake is obviously a 3-putt. I think a lot of people have played snake before. So you just have the zookeeper is whoever has the most Anamules, and whenever the beverage cart rolls around, zookeeper buys a round of drinks, whatever people want from the beverage cart, and then it's a clean slate, and you start all over again. You see whoever has the most Anamules. So download the app. There's, like anything, there's a little bit of, I guess, premium option that you can have if you want to buy in, get a little bit more interactive with the app and all that. But Anamules is awesome. Go download it for free. These guys are cool. They have a great time playing it, and it's a different way to play. Skill levels kind of thrown out the window, and all these other, way of looking at the game come in. You're not necessarily focused on if you shot like 79 or 87 or whatever. You're focused more on if your golf ball hit like the cart path or not. So cool, different way to look at it. So I wanted to get into a lot of this because I wanted to kind of react to the Harry Higgs video, strategy, kind of like noticing our games, the mental approach. A lot of it kind of has some synergy together. Lurch and I's conversation was a little bit in line with Dr. Jim Afremow, where one of the questions we asked him was like, man, we can all hit the shot, right? Like the golfer that goes out and shoots like 87, most of them can go out and hit 4 or 5 drives around that go like 260 to 290, 300 down the middle, and they can hit a 7-iron the exact yardage they want to hit it, right, dead straight. They can do it. We've all done it. Why can't we do it all the time? Why can't we just do it really consistently? And that was a lot of his mental breakdown, and that was a lot of what led to kind of the same mindset, led to mine and Lurch's conversation of like, if you, and I said to Lurch, like, if we sat there and we each got one attempt to defeat Rafael Nadal in a point in tennis, we would lose, 40 love every game, 6-0 every set. We wouldn't get any points, none, 0. But when we go out and we get 4 attempts to hit a golf shot, we can compete, and we have these matches that go down to 18 against Kiz. We killed Joel Damon, who I don't know was really there that day. Pat Perez lipped out. Like, we hold our own against them. And Lurch made the point that, like, well, we're not competing against the player. You're actually competing against the golf course, versus in the other one, like, that guy gets to directly react physically to what you did, and you go back and forth. And that's a different nature of the game, which is true. So it kind of led to this never-ending conversation debating whether it's really impressive that we could do it or whether it's shitty. I think it's a little bit of both, in that it's infuriating that we can, between the 4 of us, who we collectively stink at golf. Like, if you go watch the Band and Travel series, like, a little bit of wind picked up and none of us could break fucking 85 or 90, and we play golf all the time. We were playing from like 6,300 yards. But as a foursome, not like playing any different tees, we don't get strokes, nothing. We just went out, and as a collective group, we hit basically the same shots that Max Homa hit, that Kevin Kisner hit. Like, we were able to come up with those shots physically among us, and I think that's crazy impressive. I think that's actually impressive.
Well, I'd also argue, at least for myself on the mental side of it, when we do 4-man scrambles, I am far more comfortable on the golf course than I am playing by myself, just by the nature of the format. Because I usually hit first, and I know that I'm the worst golfer in the group. But at that time, I'm thinking, all right, you're either going to hit a great shot and it's going to be awesome, or you're going to hit a great putt and it's going to go in and people are going to go crazy. Or I got my guys behind me where I have 3 better golfers than me who are likely going to hit a better shot than I. So I think I almost wish, and it's not possible, but I wish I could get into that mental state when I play by myself, where just be comfortable. Like, either hit a good shot or don't, but err on the side of hitting a good shot. It's just that 4-man scramble, and I actually think that makes it, I don't know if it makes it less impressive or more impressive in terms of the conversation you guys are having, but like, just getting into a different mental state when you're playing in that format helps me times a billion. Like, there's so many clips of me hitting great putts during 4-man scrambles, and then you go and watch the Breaking 100 series, and I'm flying by the hole at 1,500 miles per hour. So it's like, and I really do think that's all mental. When I'm standing over a putt in the 4-man scramble, I'm thinking, A, I want to make the putt, and B, if I don't, I think we're still going to be in a better position because of the guys behind me. When I'm playing by myself, that is completely out the window and it's all on my shoulders. I don't know how you get into the right mental state. And kind of going back to what you guys are talking about generally, like, it's not going to happen overnight. Like, we've been playing golf for decades and we've had these same thoughts. Frankie's been making fun of himself. We've all had these same thoughts. So it's going to take a lot of work. And I think that ultimately ends up being the difference between, there's a lot of differences, but one of them is Harry Higgs is willing and committed to put in the work, the mental work, the physical work, all that stuff. And then you put that together and you get a professional golfer. We're a bunch of idiots who make fun of ourselves, don't really work on the mental side of it, although Frankie's going to do that with this new series and it's going to be awesome. So it'll be interesting to see the type of strides he can make when you actually make a full commitment to the mental side of it.
And that's something that none of us has ever really done, right? Is truly commit to improving at golf in general, but especially the mental side. I mean, I wouldn't even know where to begin, and that's what's going to be cool about Frankie's series is him learning like how you can actually begin and navigate your way through it. But I wouldn't even know where am I going to stand on the practice screen and just think for 30 minutes? Like, what are you going to do? How are you supposed to do it? I don't think the average person would have any clue.
I don't know either.
That was the thing that Trevor Luhrmann said about Tiger Woods, where he would get into the putt, and sometimes he'd spend a day on one putt. And so I actually remember as a kid, and my dad would lock me in the room and be like, you just have to do some homework. So like do whatever, but you have to think through it. So I remember just sitting there and be like, what am I doing here? And so, but then sometimes you'd get into it and I don't know, I'd write all sorts of things down I was studying. Obviously never made it to any sort of elite level of study or athletics. So didn't really pan out for myself. No. So, but to think that Tiger is standing over a putt, same putt, maybe, puts a tee down and is like, I'm going to putt from this spot and get into the mastery of exactly that putt, whether it's 6 inches of break from left to right or right to left, up, downhill, is amazing. And I think there's so much that we miss with regards to like how I was just talking about 42 putts and like mentally okaying that. And then Frankie calls me out and he's like, that's everything that's wrong with our mental ability is like, you just okayed 42 putts and was like, that's a fine round of golf. It's like, there's no belief in there. There's no like expectation you're going to do better.
10 more than you should have. That's just 10 more.
Yeah.
It does sound stupid, but it's amazing what happens when you apply yourself. Like, we don't even attempt to apply ourselves. Like, you're talking about with the homework, Lurch. And I was the same way. Like, I wasn't a great student. But when I actually sat down and, like, gave it a shot, like, I have a brain. And, like, it's capable of certain things. When you don't even think about it or you don't even, like, give it an effort, of course it's not going to change. Right. Of course you're not going to get better at it.
But how dumb are we to think that, like, we can't get to that level? What you just said of, like, because there's times where we stand over a ball and there's no expectation, there's no thought, and we're expecting maybe in the back of our head that we're going to have a better outcome. But it's like, we know that that's the answer, but we're so dumb, we're so, like, we're not applying ourselves at all, we still can't get there.
We apply ourselves a lot to trying to make our swings better, and that's the one thing. Obviously, the pros, we're talking about how we could, like, just if we concentrated more, we'd be able to replicate our swings more and more. But I think a lot of it does come from technique. Like, they find the slot more, so more often than not, they're going to be able to hit the ball in the center of the club face for more often, then therefore leading to less shanks and tops and all those things. So at the end of the day, yes, it comes to so much practice and repetition like that we're never going to be able to achieve. Max Homa hit way too many golf balls for us to ever be able to be as good as him, and that's just dedication that he had. But what we're trying to say, or what at least I think, is that if we apply the same mental strategy that they know and that they've unlocked in their brain throughout a round, my 89, 91, 86 can maybe turn into a 79, 80, 81. We're just significantly better golfers. We enjoy the game more, and the only thing that takes us from the higher number to the lower number is applying yourself mentally. And it's kind of crazy when you think about when you're in school and you mentioned like doing homework and going to classes and all this stuff. And I was always so much better when I genuinely enjoyed the subject, right? If you math, I fucking hated. I had this teacher, Miss Brower, and she fucking hated me. She used to kick me out every single day. I hated her so much.
There's a left hook to old Miss Brower.
I'd love to be a fly on the wall for that relationship.
We just didn't fucking gel, and I would be like, why is math even math? And was like, you're just making this. You just made this up to teach other math teachers. That's what I would say. Like the only people that are ever gonna write that on a paper.
But that made her feel real good. That's a real.
Yeah.
That's
that's a fucking mean thing to say.
It's true though. All my other teachers loved me. The whole thing. But like science or learning about the cosmos or cosmic science, learning about fucking planets, like I loved that stuff. I maybe didn't retain the information because I was so dumb, but I enjoyed it and I wanted to read about it. The thing that's interesting about golf is that we love it so much and we dive so deep into like swings and trying to get better and playing and getting gear, but we don't think about it the way we do about subjects in school. Like when I would dive into something in science or social studies and I wanted to learn about like American history or something, I was like all in on everything about it. But with golf, we leave out such a big part of it because we just want to play it. I don't know if it's like the sport aspect of it, like that we don't want to take the time to like think off the course about it. Like we just always just want to play. We want to hit the ball, we want to get it in the hole, and that's all we want to do. Like for some reason, I just don't unlock that love for learning all the stuff that we need to learn. You know what I mean? And I hope I can find that, but I just don't love that. I don't my brain doesn't have like a dopamine thing that comes off when I learn about like all the mental stuff about golf. I just don't love it.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's interesting in golf, Frankie, because like playing hockey and when you play hockey once a week, you're out there just playing, right? But you don't ever really think about how you're going to try to get better at hockey, right? You just like play and then you go have a beer after and then you play again a week later. Whereas in golf, it's so different in that you play and you want to be better. And then you think about all the time how you can be better. And then when you're not playing, you for whatever reason, you think about like, okay, I'm going to try to be better. And the shadow swings at gas stations, right? Fucking people are standing at the gym taking shadow swings, like trying to get better. It's so different than other games and sports in that nature for whatever fucking reason. And that we're constantly thinking about getting better at it. When, you know, if you play flag football on the weekend, you don't think all week about how you could get better at flag. You just fucking show up and play. It's like,
yeah, I think 99% of golfers, when they go to this is who I am. I go to the driving range and I just hit golf balls. I just hit them.
Yep.
I try and get the ball in the air. I'm being completely honest. That's the only thing that goes in my head is like, let me take this club back to my backswing and I'm just going to hit this golf ball. And I'm going to hit 50 to 60 of them and then I'm done. I'm not thinking about anything. Maybe from time to time I'm like, oh, let me try to come more inside. But never am I trying to like do a muscle memory thing where it's like a certain amount of shots, certain amount of ball flights, certain amount of greens hit. Never. I don't think about anything.
Well, and they're all short-term goals as well. Like if you're at the range and you're pulling them, you're like, all right, how do I not pull it? But you're not thinking about how you can not pull it the next time, or at least I never do, right? You're just trying to solve it for that very moment, but you're never thinking, how can I implement a swing change so that never happens again? You're just like, if I could stop pulling it today and in the next shot, that'd be a huge win. So let's just do that. And then you'll literally do anything. You'll like come around it, swing inside and try to hold off for just miles until it just doesn't yank left. And literally, but it's just that one swing. It's not like that's going to be repeatable the next time. And we all laugh because it's like, every swing that Riggs claims to have had is fundamentally different. And like that in itself
in your head, it's completely different. Right? It's so different.
And that's a nightmare in golf.
It's a nightmare, but in video, it's funny because they all look identical. Like you in your head think, wow, that was different what I did there. And you look on video and they're the same. And I think, Frankie, your point about truly applying yourself and enjoying it is so pertinent because like I look at like my hockey career, I look at that and I always think like my biggest failure in life was my hockey career where I just like could have been so good. And then I look at the time when I was pretty even with guys that are now in like the NHL. And I look at like Alex Killorn, who 2-time Stanley Cup champion, second, third liner for the Tampa Bay Lightning, best team in the NHL the last 3 or 4 years. And, he and I arrived at college pretty much same time. And he just genuinely embraced applying himself. Like he ate properly at age fucking 18 and he would go look at video and he would go work on his wrist strength and all these things that I never ever was willing to do. Never. I just, like you, I didn't enjoy it. I showed up to the rink. I wanted to get on the ice. I wanted to fucking battle and skate and try to score. And then afterwards, that was it. It was just, there's whole nother life. And truly like applying yourself and to bring it full circle, like with Harry Higgs and all that knowledge that he has, like that motherfucker, contrary to the boisterousness and the unbuttons and ripping his shirt off, like remember how struck we were in that hour and 40-minute podcast and then that whole hour and a half video that we did with how passionate and obsessed and almost nerdy he was about golf. And, we really realized like, man, underneath it all, great song, he is so into this and knows so many things. And it's not just that he knows him and then he hits balls and he goes something. Like, you could tell that he enjoys being nerdy about this and being obsessed with this shit. And he loved sharing that information with us. And he loved like going through our mental approach and telling us pretty much what we need to tweak and change and how we need to move the field goals in the middle of the green. Like, he was obsessed with that stuff. He was, how fired up he got at his fucking caddy when he, thought that he gave him the bad intel and hitting the driver out of bounds and that whole story. Like, he's so fired up, and he's a guy that we look as like, oh, happy-go-lucky, just shows up and plays golf really well. Like, that guy, that motherfucker applies himself, and we don't apply ourselves to 1% of the, a degree that he does, and of course there's a huge difference. And like, Haley Ostrom, I saw you tweeting about, or quote tweeting this the other day, Lurch, like, she had a great tweet, and I've played with her a couple times, and she's always made this point of like, she basically said, if you don't go to the range once a week, and you don't practice putting like twice a week, you do not get to be upset when you hit bad golf shots. Like, there's like, it's, and DJ's made that point before of like, if you don't practice golf, you're going to fucking suck at golf. Yeah. And any other outcome that you believe you should have in your brain, you're just wrong.
Yeah, it's just delusional. But that's like honestly where I live. It's where everybody else lives.
For
it's
sure.
like, no, I'm going to be good today. And you're like, step up to the first tee, and sometimes I feel good, have a coffee, but you're just like ready to play, feel loose, and you're like, dude, I'm going to rip it today. And then when you suck or shank the first ball, it goes to some place that you never thought it could go. You're like, how's that possible? It's like, well, have you practiced in the last couple of years? No, I've just shown up at the golf course.
It's good. Of course, you're not going to be good at this game. This game is really hard. You never practice it. Like applying it, it will be a really interesting, especially with Frankie's. It was really interesting with Trent's breaking 100, right? Like Trent, for the first time, truly applied himself to getting better at the game of golf. And it worked. I mean, it just worked. Like, he went to 5-iron. He hit balls. He had an actual game plan and a thought process behind his golf swing and his golf game and how he was going to get from 105 or 110 to less than 100. And it fucking worked.
It can work. It really can. You have to at least try, You have to try. And that all this goes back to what Trevor Immelman said about Tiger, where it's like somehow he has hooked up his dopamine receptors to enjoying the process. Like when he would get lost with putting, I guarantee Tiger loved that and it felt like an hour to him. Like 10 hours felt like an hour. And if you can somehow unlock that, then you're in business with a lot of this stuff.
I mean, everybody's seen this photo, but I posted, I don't know, a couple months ago. The ball mark on Tiger's putter, I think, is maybe the most impressive thing in the history of the world. Not even sport. It's like you hit, sure, you can make a dummy mark on a driver. You can make a mark on a wedge. Give me the science on how many times it takes to strike a golf ball with a putter at very slow speeds to make a ball mark. That's not to be believed, honestly. I don't even know how that's possible.
Dude,
crazy.
He's been putting with that thing, I think, since like 1998 or 1999. So that fucking thing has
hitting it on the same spot.
Same spot.
5 years, okay, of that guy grinding over the guy. Like, more than our entire adult lives, any of us on this show. That guy has just been grinding day after day after day after day, hitting the same spot with that putter. Of course, when he stands over a 4-footer,
right,
it just goes in the middle of the hole. Like, right, how could it miss? How could it fucking miss?
Think about your expectations of trying to beat that guy when you've seen he's put in the practice to make a ball mark on a putter, and you're just showing up being like, yeah, dude, I think I can shoot 70 today. It's like, you got no shot of beating that guy. None.
No chance. None.
Riggs, you brought up an interesting point. There are some people, and I played high school football. I didn't go any further than that. But there are people who just love it. They love practicing. Yes. They love doing it. And I don't know what that difference is. Like the differences between you and that guy. I was far more like you than that guy. But there were guys who just like were in the gym. First one's in the gym, last one's out. And that, I'm curious, like what the research says in terms of, I just don't understand the mental part of people. You're either born with it or you're not. That's what it seems like to me, seeing that from the outset. Because you couldn't make me love going to lift at 5 a.m. in the morning. You could not do it. I refuse to do that. But there's guys who love it, and I don't know what the difference is.
And when I left college, Trent, I remember when hockey, college hockey career was over. I remember thinking, I will never go to the gym ever again. And I've pretty much never gone to the gym ever again. Like, I just hated it. It wasn't even that I didn't enjoy it. I fucking hated it. And it was like whenever you put me on the ice, I believed nobody could get the puck away from me. I could score at any moment, and nobody wanted to win more than I did. But off the ice, like, guys all of a sudden could get the puck away from me because they were in the gym getting just stronger than I was. And it was like, on some level, they could just do it. And like, they could just shoot the puck a little harder than I could because they got stronger and they like worked on it. And like, and that difference is, I imagine, we talk in golf a lot about how fucking good so many players are in Monday qualifying, and guys have to shoot like 62 and they still somehow don't get in. That's got to be the difference at that level, because there are, hundreds or thousands of people that are really, really good at golf or hockey or football. But having that, I think, or you got to force that out of you. But it's the guys that made it, from my team, and that's the only example I was really a part of, that made it from my team, fucking loved it. They were the hardest grinders in the world. And Lurch knows, like, one of our best buddies, Mike, his two brothers played professional hockey, and they're awesome. And they worked so hard. They were like, their whole approach to it was encompassing. Alex Biega's still playing pro hockey. He's played a bunch of games in the NHL. Their brother Mike was like as good or infinitely better than they could have been. He was so good at hockey. And he was much more like us. He just like loved to hang out. He didn't, and don't get me wrong, to play at that level, like, there's working really hard. You're in the gym, you're in great shape, but going that extra mile and genuinely enjoying it is such a difference. And especially when the game's gotten to where it is now. Like when we had Jeremy Roenick on, he talked a lot about how, like, in the 80s and 90s, whoever got by kind of doing what our approach is would be the best player in the world. But now when you get to that level where it's, the fitness and the training and all of that and the nutrition, like, that whole approach makes guys just a little bit better, to the point where in over 82 games in the NHL or over 4 rounds of 72 holes, like, that's actually way better. And it's the difference between a career or being top 10 in the world and not really making it. And you have to, I think you have to love it, or you have to teach yourself how to love it.
That's super interesting. Yeah.
It is crazy, because like
none of these guys love it on this show, I'll tell you that much.
But like Biega, like, watching him play hockey, like, painted a beautiful picture. Like, and I was lucky enough to play, like, Yandel, when we played each other in high school. He always found space. He always had space. Just a magician with the puck in terms of how he created. Watching Biega play was like the same way. And I asked him one time, I was like, Biega, like, why not? Like, why didn't you make it? He's just like, I love Bud Lights. And I'm like, oh man, dude, I get that. I get that, dude. That's fine. It's a good answer.
He's the best. And he's like the nicest fucking dude in the world, but he's so sick at hockey. And his two brothers went on and played pro, and he just didn't. He was like, no, I'm just all set. I'm going to go hang out in Southie. And he's made a billion friends, and he's awesome. And it's just, it just reminds me of kind of what we're speaking about. And so it is funny, man, that applying yourself and the difference and the mental approach, that's all things that clearly this podcast could do a lot more of if we really wanted to be better at golf, but I really doubt that we will.
Go out and apply yourself to that audience. You know what I mean? It matters. If you apply yourself.
We're really it's a motivational show right here. Owens might motivate you, all right? If you want to go the other direction, or just maybe have a couple cocktails and enjoy yourself just at Owens. I'm actually out at Pebble. We came over yesterday. The boys are coming out later this week for the Dad Bod Classic, which we will get into, but they have the Barstool Transfusion by Owens at Pebble, and they have it at the Hay, which is the Tiger Woods new par 3 course. I saw yesterday for the first time. Really nice to see our cocktail up there. Owens is perfect. Owens Craft Mixers gives anybody the ability to make a high-quality cocktail right at home. Perfect for folks like us. Don't have a clue about making cocktails. Again, never really applied ourselves to anything like that. You just pour in your favorite liquor and then just add Owens, and you're good to go. It is that easy. They got a variety of mixers that pair with any spirit, including the Barstool Transfusion. Owens is at the majority of stadiums and arenas around the country. So if you're going to a game, get yourself an Owens cocktail. If you're going to a golf course, look for it. A lot of them have it. They have it up at Greyhawk. They've got it here at Pebble. They've got it at Pinehurst. They got it a lot of places. So go to owensmixers.com. You can check out the store locator. Find a store that has Owens near you. Or if you don't feel like getting off the couch, order on Amazon or get it delivered in less than 30 minutes on GoPuff. So owensmixers.com. Owens is great. Go try it. Pour it in with your favorite liquor. Great cocktails. A couple other things on this front, because I think this is fascinating golf talk that we're having. I played on Sunday with Max Homa's caddy, Joe Griner. Awesome guy, really good player. I think he and his partner lost in the quarterfinals last year at Chambers Bay in the USGA 4-ball. So clearly a really good player. And I love playing golf with him. He's a really good dude. He's a really good player. So obviously that part's fun. But he loves talking golf just like we do and picking his brain about Max and Max's game. And he was, him and Max played in the Sharks, or him and Kisner played in the Sharks shootout together last year, Max and Kiz. And, Kiz is obviously completely different games, really. Like Kiz doesn't hit it nearly as far as Max, but putts lights out. Max hits it, and we all saw it in person, as impressive as any human being on planet Earth. But he putts, not as well as Kiz. He's not a bad putter, but he putts not as well as Kiz. And me and Joe were talking about it. Joe was like, it was really interesting for us because Max is very linear. So like golf swing, he's very linear. He's always looking at his lines, the path of the club and the lines. And then on the greens, he's very linear as well. He always likes to line it up, with an arrow and a line, and that's his line. And he's like, Kiz is very feely. He's like, Kiz gets on the green and he just sees how the ball's going to take the shapes of the green and just roll over end into the hole. And he's more almost like metaphysical about the whole thing. And he's not looking at it very linearly. And he's like, and neither way is the right way. But he's like, it stuck out to me how you could have two guys that are both, to 30, 35th, 40th in the world, who look at something so simple as putting, which is just rolling the ball end over end with a little flat stick. He's like, they look at it completely differently. And he's like, that just, stuck out to me and so many different approaches that, you can have. And I told him, I was like, man, I remember when we played a scramble against Kiz, first couple of holes, you're still getting used to it. We haven't really played much golf with PGA Tour pros at that point, especially that was 2 years ago. And we're so used to when we play with our buddies, if somebody has a 4, 6, 7, 8 footer, like you're just waiting for them to miss. They miss all the time, like all the time. They never go in. And I remember I told him, I was like, first 4 or 5 holes, Kiz had 1 or 2 of those. The first hole, he left himself like 8 feet short. And I remember us all thinking like, ooh, here's a little chance. And he just poured them dead in the heart. And I was like, on the back nine, when he had those putts, every one of us you just knew he was making. Like there was 0.0% chance he was going to miss. And Joe was like, yeah, Kiz is one of those guys where he just sees the ball going in, steps in, and buries it. And I remember that Kiz said on the show after he won the Wyndham, he was like, if one of these other guys in this playoff don't make their putt, I'm winning this. Like this 4-foot slider I have, there's no way it doesn't go in. It's going to go in. And that's so positive, and none of us think that way, I think.
That's also a guy who has, like, talking about the mental side of it, just insane confidence. Like, I remember working with Tillery, and we were just hanging out, talking, like, in between, like, the Bay session or whatever, and he would be like, Kizner's the only guy I've ever met who's 5'9", but also thinks he has a 10-foot dick. And then he's just like and then he also thinks that he's like the biggest, strongest, but we all know Kisner. He's like a pretty modestly sized guy, but he in his brain, in his mind, he thinks he's the baddest motherfucker on the planet. And I would say that goes a long way in terms of making putts like that. He just has it.
We're talking about when you were talking about Homa before and like standing next to him, and now Kisner. Like, why are they? It's been breaking my brain ever since we talked about it. Like, why are they just able to be better than us? Right? What is it?
Yeah.
So as we're sitting here, I texted Brock Nelson, amazing hockey player. The guy's just phenomenal. I just said, "Why are you a pro hockey player?" It's like such a generic question, right?
Yeah,
but like,
it's a great question, though.
Has he ever thought about it? I don't know that he's ever sat there and been like, "Why?" Like he's just been on this ride from the time he was born to the time now. Like he's just like that's just how it is, and like why was he able to do it? And I was like, "Is it like what? Like how'd you get there?" And he's like, it has to, he goes, it has to be. The way he starts it, he doesn't even know, right? He's like, it's got to be a combination of hours practice, mentality, and genetics. And I said, all right, well, like a lot of people have good genetics. And he's saying, but what do you think the average hand-eye coordination is across the general public? And if we don't think it's that great, then guys born with just better hand-eye coordination are now elevated to a level in which their peers and everyone around them are lower than them. Then you add the mentality on top of that because you're generated with better hand-eye coordination and you just have a higher level of skill, just born with it. And then you add the hours of practice and boom, you have a pro player. Is that not the recipe right there? It's like, I know that a lot of people say that like you're not born with greatness, you have to earn it and you have to work for it, but fuck, there has to be a reason why he's able to tip the puck out of the fucking air more than other people. It can't be like just practice, and it can't be just mentality.
No, there's a part of that too,
100%.
for sure, because going back to my days of playing football, I also knew guys who worked harder than anybody, who were the first guys there and the last ones to leave, and they didn't even start. They couldn't break through for whatever reason that is. They couldn't get a spot on the starting roster. And I do think that goes to what Brock is saying, where you can do everything right and work as hard as possible, but if you're not born with just a little bit of something more, you're just not going to become a pro athlete.
And I think the other piece is like knowing yourself. Like, just like like Riggs is talking about, golfers think about it differently. You know, like you have to know what drives you, what you can accomplish, what you can accomplish.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's almost like so like these guys were born to do that thing, and had they chosen something else because they didn't know, they never would have been anything. But because they went in the perfect lane for what their brain, body, genetics were made to do, right? Like he is made to be a hockey player, and he just happened to be one. Like the way his genetics and his eyes and his hands and all that come together, he would not have been a Hall of Fame accountant. He would have he had to be a hockey player.
But then even to like go past that and like get the mentality, it's like he's understanding the game the way Brock Nelson needs to understand the game to have like outrageous success, and the way like somebody else saw the game would be different than him. You know, like there's a good TaylorMade video out there, shout out TaylorMade, where Jason Day and Rory and everybody's like, Tiger hits a wedge.
Oh, it's an awesome video.
Great video. And Jason Day's like, dude, how do you control distances with your wedges? And Tiger's like, I just slow my hands down. So fundamentally, like within that, they're just thinking about how to control distances very differently. And everybody's like, and Jason Day has like a great humanistic question. He's just like, can you talk to us like a human being? Like, give us something, dude. That's not a real answer. And it's just like that aspect, I think, I guess bundles into the mentality side. But like Brock at some level knows, like, I don't know, he's found his own way to learn, to accomplish. And like, he is born to, like, Brock Nelson is born to be like kind of a power forward, like grinder with a playmaker's ability, hockey. Like he's just got that.
And it's funny, he actually ends it with totally just coinciding with the Harry Higgs video on YouTube. He goes, I'm a huge believer in the mental side. You see things how you want them to play out in your mind, and you can bend reality or will it to happen, and that is what I do. He
said that?
Yeah, he just wills it to happen. You have to just will it to happen.
It's like that, like Jason Day asking Tiger about that wedge question.
What a conversation you and him are having right now.
Well, I was just like,
wow, this show is going on. That's amazing.
I know. I'm trying to just get like, because we're talking about pro athletes' mindset and like how do they get to that level and how come we can't do it? And it's like this guy goes out there and thinks that he can will reality to be the outcome that he wants, and like obviously that doesn't always happen, or else they'd have 1,000 goals and the Islanders would never lose a game. But I think we all need to have that mentality on the golf course. Fucking Harry Higgs literally told us that, to like essentially bend our own realities of be like, hit the ball to that fucking target and just do it. Like that is where it's going to go. And if you don't think it's going to go there, it's not going to go there. Just like Dr. Jim Afremow is about to talk to us on this podcast. If you don't think it's going to happen, if you don't visually see yourself, he talks about self-speech all the time, Dr. Jim Afremow. If you don't talk to yourself and be like, you're about to get this ball on the green, then you're not going to get the ball on the green. I'm gassed up to play some golf this weekend and just mentally think myself through the fucking golf.
All to come crashing down for each and every one of us.
Fuck, man. Like, why couldn't we just be fucking pro players? Like, why didn't we have this knowledge when we were 8 years old? Like,
dude, just bend reality.
Let's not forget about the genetics. That was the third of it. So let's not just like totally forget.
But then you have like a Marty St. Louis who's like 5'5" and he's like one of the best.
Yeah, but his
players.
mental strength might be 1 billion like percent in comparison to yours. Like, think about if all that is 33%, and you need 33% to get to the pros. Where are you on that scale? Rank yourself. Genetics. What are you, like 10?
Oh, dude,
it's low.
2.
Right. So then, all right, mentally, you're probably lower than that. You might be 1. And then, what's the last?
Mentality, which you might be even worse.
No, mentality. That's what I'm saying. 1%. So genetics, mentality, and then just drive and practice.
Hours of practice. Yeah.
You're right. And so, where are you on that scale?
0.
Sorry, so you got 3% out of 100.
That sounds about right.
Bro, the great watch the
You
movie.
think like, oh, if I
Checks
knew
out,
this
yeah.
information 10 years ago, I'd have a chance at this thing? What are we even talking about?
And when you talk about the vision and reality and all that stuff and like willing it, watch the movie The Greatest Game Ever Played when that guy steps on the fucking tee box and all of the golf course just becomes eliminated. And all of a sudden it's just him and the green, and he sees just a serene setting. He hears birds chirping. Meanwhile, it's a crazy U.S. Open at the country club and the whole thing, and he's just fucking smoking balls right down the middle, and then he comes out of it. It's the zone. They get into the zone. We talk about that with the doctor in a couple minutes. We get into the zone. They get in the zone. We don't even know where the zone is. If we had the zone on a map, we wouldn't get there.
No.
We would never get there. It's both inspiring and, devastating.
It's got to be
kinda
devastating
talk
for
through
you,
it.
Ray. I mean, when you get to a level where like you're with people that made it to that level, it's got to be infuriating. I mean, you're doing well for yourself in the end of the day, but my point is like your peers just had this extra edge on you, and you're like, why the fuck didn't? Like, obviously, all my peers had the extra edge. Like, if I'm out to dinner with the Islanders, they all had an extra edge on me no matter what. I was never in their realm. Like, if you go out to dinner with Alex Killorn, you're like, well, I used to score more goals than you like 10 years ago, and now you're just like a 2-time Stanley Cup player. It's like, it's fucking crazy.
Dude, and you're 100% correct. Yes, it is like, it's devastating. And we get into it a little bit with Dr. Jim Afremow. We talk about dreams, you like ask him about dreams,
Oh,
Frankie?
yeah, those fucking dreams suck, man.
Like I basically have 2 recurring dreams. One of them is the one that you sort of mentioned in this, where I can't, and I've talked about before, I can't get the ball on the tee. I'm supposed to be playing in the Masters, and I'm like, get announced on the first tee, and it's like, somebody comes out of the crowd and kicks it, my hand's shaking, then like the tee breaks in half, and then I just wake up, I can't get the ball on the tee. The other one is that I'm back at Harvard in college playing hockey, and I have another year, and I'm like lighting it up, and it's the best thing ever. And then the NCAA comes to me, and they're like, your clock, you have like 5 years to play 4 years, and they're like, your clock is over. And then I just like never make it. So clearly it affects my brain that, you in theory, like you say, you're like close enough, and you have in theory some of those boxes checked that Brock just mentioned, but you like didn't get there. So yeah, it's like, that's just a failure. That's just like you as a person failed. You just could have done it. You just didn't. You
Is he
could have
think
done
there's
this
any part of that
unbelievably cool thing.
Alex Killorn, is that his name?
Yeah.
Is there any part of him that looks to you and be like, man, he's such a better blogger than I am. He's such a better podcaster than I am. I'm so jealous.
0%. I
Okay.
think 0. Although I will say he has a little bit of an influencer. He has a little bit of an influencer edge to him. He did like the doc talk with Killer, where during COVID, he would go around in his wave runner around Tampa and just like do Instagram lives and stuff.
We had
So he's got a
JJ
little
Redick
influence.
say that like we have the best jobs in the world, so it's like, at the end of the day, it's like fucking crazy to get that mindset of it. Like Killorn might be sitting there being like, "Fuck, why the hell did I just put my body through all this stuff? I could have just been a golf podcaster."
It's true to think about it that way. It's kind of crazy. But I don't know that we don't view ourselves like those are physical specimen elite athletes, and we're just us.
Well, that's why I fanboy over all these guys. I mean, they are my gods. They're like my go back to the Greek times. They're the Greek gods. I'm just one of the fucking citizens looking up at the fucking metropolis.
We got this has been a great. This has been
Painted a little picture for you there.
Yeah, you did. That was a good. I like that picture.
You all
Actually,
pictured
that
exactly
was
what I was talking
serious.
about. Did you
Yeah.
not?
Oh yeah.
I said I was one of the citizens of Greece looking up at the
Here comes the repeat.
Where did that come from? Dude?
I don't know. I just pictured it. I looked at a big fucking. I don't know.
That's the guy who's been reading a lot of Eamon Lynch.
Yeah.
As a show that spins off the planet quite a bit, this has been a lot of pretty in-depth golf talk, which I'm proud of us for that. We got even more to get into. We got to go through the Player Impact Program and the latest that came out. This is actually part of the From the Gallery, because our boy Nate sent us an email and just said, I would love for the fellas, after basically a year of contemplating, to break down the latest and the revelations in the Player Impact Program. And From the Gallery is brought to you by our friends at Truly Hard Seltzer. You can find Truly Hard Seltzer near you at www.trulyhardseltzer.com. Truly, do it for the flavor. They got more flavors. Every Truly is packed with flavor and 30 plus flavors, so there's something for everyone. They got fewer calories. All 12-ounce cans have under 110 calories, so if you're trying to apply yourself like we're talking about, maybe get better, get in better shape, look better, be healthier, while also enjoying, your life and trying to chase whatever dreams you've got, maybe trying to make the PGA Tour after this conversation, which means plenty of refreshing flavors that won't weigh you down. Low sugar. Every Truly contains only 1 gram of sugar. So again, that's under 110 calories, only 1 gram of sugar. We like to keep it real. That's why we use no artificial flavors or sweeteners in the Trulies. So do it for the flavor. Truly Hard Seltzer. Find it at trulyhardseltzer.com. Big thanks to Truly, obviously title sponsor of the Barstool Classic for the 4th year in a row this year. So big thanks to Truly. Go have some and enjoy yourself this weekend. Okay, the Player Impact Program. It was announced today that Tiger Woods, not Phil Mickelson, won the Player Impact Program for 2021. I believe the phrasing that they used was that a late push from Tiger, where obviously he released that swing video. I think it was a 2, maybe 3-second video. It got like 10 million views on Twitter and took over the entire internet. Then a month later, he plays in the father-son PNC with Charlie. There's no way he doesn't win after all of that, clearly. I think that a lot of our takes after looking at this list are going to be in line with what we've said the entire time. I'll go through the list very quickly. Tiger Woods got $8 million for first place. Phil Mickelson, $6 million for second place. Then Rory third, Spieth fourth, Bryson fifth. They each got $3.5 million. Then Justin Thomas sixth, Dustin Johnson seventh, Brooks Koepka eighth, Jon Rahm ninth, and Bubba Watson 10th. They each got $3 million. I think the main takeaway from this is really, it's just not that much about social media. I don't think that your social media action has almost anything to do with it.
Well, I'd also argue if you go back to when they originally announced that the PIP program is going to be a thing, I think we said that Tiger Woods should be number one every single year until he's not on the planet anymore or whatever. Like,
then he probably should win. I mean,
right? Like, they kind of gave out a little bit of data in terms of what goes into this, and I don't totally understand all of it, but Tiger Woods is golf. If he's even, think about how much he played last year. Like, that's a pretty good indicator on how much of an impact he has when he's not even playing. So, like, it should always be him. When it came out that Phil might have won, those early reports, that made sense to a degree, but Tiger Woods being number one makes the most sense. But I agree with what you're saying, Riggs. It's just who are the biggest players in golf. Has nothing to do with social media. Jon Rahm is on that list.
Bubba Watson winning number one in social media, though, is stunning. And I know that he does those videos, you're welcome and all that stuff. I think it's because he's big on TikTok, and I don't know what their algorithm is, but Bubba Watson, I think, is one of the only golfers on the planet that has embraced TikTok. So maybe they see that new area for them, like that new just like audience on TikTok. He has like 250,000 followers. All of his videos do like 1 million views or 500,000 views. He's at like all the PGA Tour events on TikTok, going viral on him. Like, is because he's getting 1 million views on all those videos and everyone else is getting 0? Is he just knocking off fucking all those stats and he's just the leader in all of these stats because everyone else is 0? Like, he's obviously not getting the Twitter action that Max Homa's getting, Joel Damon's getting, that Harry Higgs is getting, but he's doing something that no one else is doing. So is that why he won?
Well, yeah, I think so. I think, too, it really reinforces what we say a lot, which is that golf Twitter is not even close to perceiving golfers the way that they're actually perceived by the masses. Like, not even close. And I think that the Bubba Watson one is a great case, right? Like, we all look at a few guys, Jim Herman and Max Homa are in the mix all the time, especially Max on Twitter, but Twitter doesn't really matter. I mean, Twitter is not real life. That's a big kind of revelation in Barstool the last few years. You hear people talk about Twitter is just not real life. And I think Bubba Watson is actually adored by people. He gets a lot of shit on Twitter and in the golf Twitter and golf circles, podcasts, whatever. We love Bubba. We've had him on a few times now, and he's so candid and been great with us. But he's been shit on for years. People just dislike him. Him versus Ted Scott, pray for Ted Scott, all that stuff. He's just beloved, I think, and he's got a huge social following. He's big on Instagram, big on TikTok, gets millions of views. We look at his videos as corny. We make fun of them, but most people love his fucking videos, and clearly him being number one, you're right, Frankie, clearly that did matter. So it's not that social media doesn't matter at all. I guess it's just that when the whole thing was originally announced, it felt like the number one takeaway for most people was that if they're active on social media, that'll really ramp up their chances to win. And in reality, yeah, it's one of the factors that they bring in. But if you're just a bigger star than somebody else, or you're just one of the best players in the world, you have an infinitely better chance of winning than if you tweet a lot.
Right.
And
I'd
I
say
wonder
the biggest,
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I would say the biggest evidence for that is that Bryson isn't third. Like, if you think about the golf world and what has made an impact in terms of what people are talking about, like, who's above him? Rory and DJ? Is that who's above him? I had it pulled up here. Rory and Spieth.
It's Rory and Spieth, yeah.
Yeah, so, like, if you really take into account of the world that we're talking about, Bryson DeChambeau has a great argument for number 3 and maybe even number 2. But for him to be under a guy like Rory, who he's just Rory, and that's great, and he is well known as being Rory McIlroy and all that, but he certainly was not as, I don't know if relevant is the right word, but he wasn't in everyone's face as much as Bryson this last year. So that doesn't add up to me.
I know
and
that
real quick on that point, real quick, and then go ahead, Frankie. Sorry to interrupt you, but Will Gray tweeted out on Spieth. He wrote, "Here is Spieth's entire social output for 2021: 29 tweets, including 9 retweets and 1 reply, 25 Instagram posts. That's it."
And where did he rank?
4th.
He got 4th overall in the whole thing. Got $3.5 million.
Where did he rank in the
Social?
Twitter though? In the social though, the one that.
Is that the MVP score?
Yeah, MVP. Where did he rank in MVP?
Spieth was 19th.
Oh,
Okay. All right, so it's because I was gonna say if that's high, then whatever they're doing for the algorithm to be able to figure out how they do that is wrong. So 19th, I guess, is really low. What I want to say that they definitely got some sort of direction on how to win the MVP category, where it was like grow the game on different platforms, like bring us new audiences, and Bubba absolutely did that the best. Like Twitter and Instagram, they're already big for golf. Like that's where their fans live. I just think that they're putting so much more of an emphasis on growing. It's almost like at Barstool when we have all these content meetings and business meetings, and they're like, who are the people that are going to take us to that new audience and like that new generation and the new platform? Like we need to be big everywhere. Who are those groups that are going to take us there? Like PGA Tour is looking at Bubba Watson and saying he's the one that's making the impact where no one else is. Like that's worth 100 points in MVP, as opposed to Max Homa getting 20,000 retweets for saying funny things on Twitter, where it's like, hey, like you could not do that and people are still going to watch, because like we have a billion golfers on Twitter. Every fucking podcast, every media person, every single golfer likes to like and retweet. And then you have this other guy doing this. So I wonder if it is structured where it's like if you gain new followers and you have a new lane, it's worth X amount. And then if you know what I mean? So it's like, It's interesting to see how everyone's approach will now change. Like, will Max Homa now be like a TikTok god going in 2022? Like, or are they gonna try and go on like Roblox or some fucking other shit that's taking over the internet? Like, are we gonna start seeing them? I don't know. Snapchat. I just like, is it gonna change the way that they do social media? Is my point.
Bryson started doing his he started his own YouTube channel where he's doing behind the scenes videos.
Exactly.
And stuff like that.
Yep.
Yeah. Do you think most of them care? Right? Like I know a handful of them do. I know Bryson cares. I know Phil clearly cares. He's tweeting about the PIP program and stuff. But do you think most of them, like, do you think Rory really cares? Do you think Dustin Johnson cares? Do you think John Rahm really cares about the PIP program?
No, probably not.
Because those are the guys they cleared probably like it was $60 million each that they were just like this year were just like whatever. I don't care. Like, and it's gonna sound crazy, but like the $6 million that they could have made, they likely don't give a shit about.
And then past that, it's like a delta of like 3. So it's just like a fun, as long as you're in the list of the top 10, you're just like, oh, this is fun. Let's all go out to dinner and celebrate us being on this ridiculous list. Honestly, like I think there's a couple interesting takeaways, but it's like whatever.
And Rory didn't do anything in my estimation. He didn't change anything. He wasn't going crazy on social, and he still got 3rd. So, like, why would he change anything? He's just like,
Tiger Woods didn't hit a golf ball and finish 1st.
Right. That's right. He didn't play in a single PGA Tour sanctioned event. Like,
there was a tweet
event
saying that like one of the stipulations is that you had to play in an event, a new event, that you haven't entered in the last 4 years to receive this money, which is why Phil played Kapalua. So it's interesting to see if they just waive that because of all the circumstances that have happened. For Tiger Woods.
Phil's had a tough last month, I will say that. Like, just claims he won the PIP program, didn't win that, and then everything he's done with this out, it's been.
Did you guys see Kevin Na's tweet?
Yeah, I saw it.
Tiger Woods wins the $8 million PIP. I'm all for paying Tiger Woods because he made us all richer, but he didn't hit one shot in 2021. At PGA Tour, how is this possible? Also, I thought Phil Mickelson won. Did this result have any effect in the last 2 weeks? Ha with like a thinking face. Fucking Kevin Na's getting in the mud.
I think that's a fair point. I think it's a very fair point.
Yeah, and I when I saw this morning when it came out that Tiger Woods won, my first thought was, well, they weren't gonna let Phil win now. Like, even if all that stuff happened in a different year, like, whatever. No. You can't have Phil at the top of that list being like, this is the guy who everybody should be going after and being like, I want to be like that guy. No chance. I wouldn't have been surprised if he wasn't in the rankings at all anymore.
I'll also say that the Kevin Nas of the world are the guys who I would expect to really care about this, right? Like, that guy somewhere kind of in the middle, 30th in the world, whatever the hell he is, like, that $3 million, if he could sneak into the top 10, is enormous for Kevin Na, I feel like enormous. I know he's got good career earnings, but you cut him a check for $3 million, he'll tweet all fucking year if he could somehow get in the mix for a check for $10 million or $8 million or $6 million or $3 million. Like, that's big for him.
It's right. This is the right way to look at it, but there's not one guy on that list who cares about that money or who like needs that money. And I know that's that's kind of the weird way. Like, I don't know how you would structure it. And we had a long conversation a few months ago about this, but like, how do you get it in the hands of the people who are doing it the right way and who also could really use that money? I don't know. I don't know how you do it.
Someone also responded to Kevin Na saying like, your biggest moment in the last couple of years was when Tiger like mocked you for like in the video.
Yeah,
like
the walking in the putts.
Walked your putts. It's like without Tiger, you're nowhere to be found with any sort of PIP program. So absolutely, he wins.
It is just a measure of who fans care about is pretty much what it is. Like,
so
yeah,
I would say the one interesting thing. So the Q score is the like how recognizable you are in a sense, and so Bubba is third in the top 10 list, and so he's in front of Rory and Spieth and everybody else, only behind Tiger and Phil. I thought that was like I was like I don't even trust that score because like I'm on definitely the side that Rory is, I would say, the number 3 most recognizable golfer in the world without question. But maybe that's – how do you guys feel about that? Do you think Bubba's more recognizable?
I agree with you. That seems off. But, I wonder if the combination of social and winning 2 Masters for the average human being is just enough to put Bubba ahead of him. And he's lefty and he's kind of like – like me and Trent, one of our first shows we ever did, we laid out all the reasons Bubba should be lovable, but just kind of isn't. It was like his name's Bubba. He's a lefty, hits the ball a million miles. He's got his own swing that he created. He won the Masters twice. So my first instinct is there's no way he's higher in Q score than Rory.
Right.
But I don't know that it's. I guess if I really think about it, I don't know that it's crazy.
I think it's his name.
Yeah, that's not recognizability, is it? Like if
Bubba?
But that's not like no. It does. Like I think when you say who's more recognizable, I think. They show a photo to like.
Yeah. Let me just announce what it is, just so everybody's clear. A decades-old measure of an entity's familiarity and appeal. That's what this Q score is.
Yeah, so it's not recognizable. It's like familiarity.
Yeah,
so
exactly. Like is like, that's Rory to me. And
I actually agree with I actually agree with it.
Really?
Bubba's like, he's like, you're talking about.
Obviously.
In the golf world, like I understand that Rory is he's Rory. Everybody knows that. But I think if you are taking like a large swath of people who aren't necessarily in the golf world and you put their pictures or you said their names out loud, people be like, oh yeah, Bubba, the guy who won the Masters, or like, I don't know, just something about his name and the way he is and the way I don't know, he's lanky. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think a lot of people know who Bubba Watson is.
I just feel like the appeal.
You want to go on the record saying that more people know who Bubba Watson is in the golf world than Rory McIlroy?
Well, so it's a blend.
I don't know if I want to go on record. I don't know if I want to go on record with that.
Do you think it's even close?
Well, I think that the tour is telling, or this data is telling us that it is.
I don't know where the data.
But you know what I mean?
Exactly.
You don't know
what do
I
they
mean,
just
though?
pound
And
enter on the keyboard and then like these
Data.
numbers pop up? Exactly. Data.
They're going to like
It's
a
I would be
circle. They're
curious
going
to
to
know-
like Circle K's in like Iowa and be like, you know who this guy is? And they're like, yeah, it's Bubba Watson. It's like, all right, yeah, he's third.
There's one.
I would be curious to know precisely how they collected that data.
Be interesting.
That'd be
I
interesting.
think I'm closer to the truth.
I
than
think
you guys
Frankie just said that, and I think like they're going to like middle of nowhere Iowa and just being like 2 pictures, and then if they're like that's Bubba, I don't know who that is, and that's Rory. It's like check one for Bubba, and like he
Well,
goes
then-
empty there, and then they just go to the next Circle K, and then they go to like Love's like whatever gas station, and then on they go. That
Then I'm
honestly
right.
could be it.
Then I guess I'm right. I think there's an argument to be made, and the numbers would say that as well.
Fuck, man, Rory's massive.
I know, and I'm a Rory guy, but like
He's so big, it's crazy.
Bubba won 2 Masters. His name's fucking Bubba. I don't know. That goes a long way with people.
Rory's international, but yeah.
And also the back half of the Q score is and appeal. And I feel like there's no better person maybe on the planet in terms of like just genuine, lovable. And like if anybody had a daughter, I'd be like, yeah, you can marry Rory. Like that's totally fine. Then Rory.
But I don't
McIlroy.
know. But I don't know that outside golf circles that's as well known, right?
Yeah,
like
no,
all those
yes.
quotes that Rory delivers that we love so much about, him weighing in on the newest report about the Saudi League and how well he crafts it. Nobody that's just watching ESPN day in and day out fucking sees that. They don't care.
They see
then
the
who
pink
see-
driver and the Bubba
Yeah.
and the. I really think his name goes like if his name was Mark
I do
Watson,
too.
I think he's 25th on that list.
But in appeal, if like you're saying no one's seeing Rory say all these things and be the leader of like the voice of the PGA Tour, then they're absolutely not seeing Bubba Watson because he doesn't say anything.
Dude, I'm on.
Jake made the point. He was like on the Tonight Show this year talking about like mental health issues and stuff. Like I think he gets out there more than we think. I really do. And I think it might be lingering still from when Bubba was in. Like those
Absolutely.
two, he won 2 Masters in 4 years. He was the lefty. He hit the shot out of the fucking trees on the 10th hole, the giant hook. Like Bubba was in, man. Like he was in for a while. And I don't, again, my first instinct was like, there's no way Bubba's higher on the Q score thing. But, the more we kind of break it down, I'm believing it. I don't think it's like psychotic to think that.
Now
He's not bigger on my Q score, my personal Q score, I'll tell you.
They
that.
need to do the Twitter poll. Just fucking PGA Tour comes out and says, you guys got to vote for who won the MVP this year. The most votes on social media fucking wins. How is that hard?
So I went on LinkedIn and now I'm looking at the vice president of data science and technology solutions for the PGA Tour. This guy named Mike Vitti.
boy.
I would love to talk to him because I really want to know more about Frankie's guess and kind of assumption of how they grab this data because they're pulling it from somewhere and they're creating it themselves. And so, Mike, if you're
Do
out
the
there,
Twitter poll. Do a poll. If Bubba Watson,
also like we're
but
saying,
if Bubba Watson
no.
wants to go on TikTok and be like, "Hey, vote for me on this fucking poll," like he's gonna get 200,000 more eyeballs on that, 1,000,000 more eyeballs on that than other people. So if he fucking wins that poll because he's on TikTok, he fucking wins the number 1 in MVP because he's fucking all over the place on social media. Don't do it on Twitter, then do it on some website. Do it anywhere.
I was gonna say it goes against what we've been saying where it can't
No, it doesn't
be Twitter.
though. Draw people back to it.
No, but if you're saying you want to get like a read on this, Twitter, as we have been saying, is such a small percentage of what if you're talking about overall audience and that's the goal of the PIP, you want to grow it. If you just fire that poll into Twitter, you're just it's a loop. It's everyone who's always been seeing it no matter what. So you almost
but you
have
need
to
it
go
to
to
live
you almost have to
somewhere.
go to a Circle K and roll down the window and hold up a picture of Rory and Bubba and
Right.
be like, what do you think?
No, but my point is like it's got to live somewhere. So whether it lives on a website or Twitter or Instagram, wherever, if you're on other forms of social media and you're going on the Tonight Show and all this stuff, be like, hey, like there's this poll on Twitter, and if you vote for me, like if you're getting out there and you're promoting it, you're gonna get more votes. Like I just think if you're bigger across social media, you'll get more votes regardless.
People who are
That's my
watching the
point.
Tonight Show at this day and age are not gonna. They don't even have Twitter.
They're not
Well,
going
then
on a
he's not
Twitter
going to get
poll.
points from them. I'm just saying a vote is the clearest, easiest way. It's fucking democratic. It is what it is.
If they want to set up voting booths across the country and vote that way, I would absolutely be in for that.
Let's go.
There's
How
never
are
ever
we
been
gonna
a
make
problem
these
with
guys
that.
more millions of dollars? Let's set up fucking
That's
voting
been flawless,
booths so
right,
that
Riggs?
That's
Let's set up
great
voting
history
booths for
around
these
the
guys
world
to
of,
make a couple more
goes
$1 million. We're
smoothly.
gonna go out and we're gonna fucking take off work so we can vote for Bubba Watson at the voting booth.
Do you think do you think an honest just poll, a real true well done poll voting would have churned up much different results?
It'd be very interesting to see, like, if Bubba
'Cause,
turns
like,
on his social media.
But do you think it'd be different? Like the Tiger Woods, Phil Mickelson, Rory McIlroy, Jordan Spieth, Bryson DeChambeau. I think that's a pretty true and honest top 5.
Oh, no, yeah,
agree.
I think that's a top 5 because of what they're basing what the money should go after. Like, they're taking a lot more things aside from growing the game on social media. I'm just saying, if you're talking about the MVP of social media, who was the most valuable tweeter or social media person, do the poll for it. It's not fair to just, like, have this weird algorithm of, like, what they think is the biggest thing, because it's not fair to the Joel Damons and the Max Homas and all that stuff. That's all I'm saying. Like, they are big on social media. It's just whatever credentials or criteria that they've set forth, they're apparently not meeting it because they didn't make their money. And the guys that need the extra $10 million,
But
or
all
$8
we're
million,
saying though is that that's just not the most important category. Like they might have been, right? Like there's a couple numbers missing on this list. So there's like the like Bubba Watson was number 1 in the MVP thing. Justin Thomas was number 2. Brooks Koepka was number 3. Like number 4 is not even on this list. Number 6 is not on this list.
One of those
so like
could be Max.
that's what I
Okay,
mean.
but
Like,
my
those
point is,
guys
like,
can be
that's
really
what-
high, but like there's like 5 or 6 different categories. So that's just not. If you're saying like, do you think that should just be the determinant of someone that gets in? Like
I
just
think
the
that
MVP?
that's where the money should be divided by, because that's when you're going to get more people that deserve the money. We've been talking for 2 months about how this does not matter. The Tiger Woods getting an extra $8 million. If you guys want to talk about Tiger Woods getting an extra $8 million, then like, yeah, it's fucking fine. Like we just said, he does not care about it. Not one guy in the top 10 cares about making the money. My whole point since the PIP has ever been introduced is that the money should be going to people that it actually matters for. That's why you're going to grow the game. You're going to get the guys on the lower level of the PGA Tour making money, growing the game, growing their personal brands. Why are you giving it to Tiger Woods, Phil Mickelson, Rory McIlroy, Jordan
because
Spieth,
of the
Bubba
threat of the
Watson?
Saudi League. That's literally why they're doing it.
Yeah.
The threat of the Saudi League. Like they're trying to keep the players here, which we've debated about for months. That like there's another league trying to get them to go somewhere else.
But I agree with you, Frankie. I think 100 years from now, Tiger Woods is still going to be the number 1 Googled golfer. And like that's just
Wouldn't the threat of Saudi League go away more if everyone had a chance to win more money on the PGA Tour as opposed to the top 10 guys who would get paid no matter where they play?
Well,
If the guy if the 110th best golfer had the chance to win $8 million on PGA Tour, you don't think he'd be more invested in the PGA Tour, and like the PGA Tour would live on forever because they have this opportunity to make more money by just being a big brand and growing themselves, as opposed to just a guy who wins 10 tournaments a year just making an extra $3 million?
Well, no, I think that like what would hurt the PGA Tour more is like if they give $8 million to the 110th ranked player, but the Bryson DeChambeau and Dustin Johnson go to a different league, I think that hurts the PGA Tour way more than it helps them that guy makes $8 million. Like
All right. So now we've got these rankings, right? We've done it for 1 year. We finally got the rankings. We've got the 10. Let's just give those guys who are in the top 5 or the top 8 or even the top 10, let's just give them $10 million. Give it to them. I don't know where that money comes from. It's not my problem. But then you start working towards the people that Frankie's talking about. Like, I don't know. The big guys are going to get paid somehow, one way or the other. I don't necessarily know if I agree with them taking the top spots when the reason they're taking the top spots have nothing to do with the goal of the actual PIP program. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is.
They're just trying to
Right.
give the top guys more money, and it's like stupid to like drag along the whole entire process and like having guys like Homa and Higgs and Damon like try and get involved in it. And like they're never going to have a chance because the biggest players are just going to get extra money. I kind of agree with you, Trent, where it's just like sign these guys to the contracts or whatever and just give them
Right.
extra money for being on the PGA Tour. And then if you want to have this cool thing where it's like grow the game, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, social media, that's where the money should be. Like that's where like
Right.
we're going to get involved of like I want to see who's 1st through 10th. Like I was actually interested to see who was the biggest impact player on the PGA Tour. I didn't know that it was just going to be like these guys have to make money just so that they have to stay on the PGA Tour. That's something that can happen behind a closed door.
Right. Their goal is a little disingenuous. What they're saying to us is that they want these guys to grow the game, get Twitter followers or TikTok followers, get more eyes on it. But what they're actually doing is just trying to pay the big guys enough money so they won't jet to a different league.
Right.
Jordan Spieth had
right.
10 retweets and 2
agreed.
interviews this year.
And so when
It's
you
like
have
didn't-
those different
you didn't grow the
motivations,
game at all.
then the list is gonna be invalid.
and it's tough when you're trying to incentivize guys to do more, but in reality, what the entire basis of their PIP system is just going to pay the guys that have the biggest stardom in the game. That's pretty much what it is, right? And like when you look at Tiger, Phil, Rory, Spieth, Bryson, JT, DJ, Brooks, Rahm, Bubba, like that, maybe you could argue one or two names, which we've done, but overall, those are just the guys that 2 years ago, if social media didn't even exist, would still be the top 10 PIP guys, right? Like, I mean, that's not that doesn't. So you're right. It is disingenuous. Really, what they're just trying to do, I think, is keep them from not going to a different league. I think that's pretty much the only reason that this exists, and that's that's why they threw $40 million at it this year. I think they're doing 50 or 60 next year. So yeah, I agree. It is disingenuous. It would be nice that people got rewarded, genuinely, truly rewarded for being out there working day in and day out to get, golf and their personality as a professional golfer in front of more people, because I think that grows the awareness for the PGA Tour for sure, which is what Max Homa does, which is what guys do well on social media. But yeah, here it is. I guess we asked for the list and they gave us the list. Yeah,
they said they weren't going to do the list and they gave it to us, so I guess thanks.
The whole thing's been weird.
Could be
so
just
weird that they just said forever.
It could just be like, all right, Phil, you were wrong. You tweeted you won.
He still got second, though.
Totally.
Like, he's still,
totally.
It's like.
It's gravy. He's had a really interesting last month.
TaylorMade. So I know we got the Dad Bod Classic coming up. I got a new 2-iron in my bag that I am excited to use out here. I know there's chatter. The wind is going to be up on Friday and Saturday out here in Pebble area, and I can't wait to rip that low 2-iron that I got, the UDI. It's phenomenal. But you can go to barstoolsports.com/TaylorMade. Check out TaylorMade and Barstool's golf gear. You heard us talk about the Stealth quite a bit. Stealth is a weapon. There's let's see, it was Pat Perez and Kevin Chappell, who I was walking with at the Waste Management a few weeks ago. Neither one of them is a TaylorMade contracted athlete, and they're both rocking the Stealth. Tons of guys are using the Stealth. Tiger Woods appeared for the first time in a year playing in a golf tournament. What driver did he have in his hands, fellas?
Stealth.
Which company makes that?
TaylorMade.
That's right. After 20 years in the making, the limits of titanium have been broken, introducing the brand new TaylorMade Stealth Carbon Wood driver. Welcome to the Carbon Wood age. Visit barstoolsports.com/TaylorMade. I think Frankie hit one 317 with his Stealth.
317, baby. It was like a 292 carry against Lurch. Some people say the rollout numbers weren't as accurate. 292 carry is what I'm gonna fucking put my nice little head on my nice ice cold pillow, which I actually watched a TikTok video. People put their pillows in their fridges.
I have breaking news right now.
I know. I my brain is. I can't even speak right now.
Did you just see this?
I mean,
did you just see this?
I don't know how we're fucking even
talking.
What's
happening?
TaylorMade.
This is the most unbelievable tweet in the history of the world.
It's the best tweet of all time.
Tiger Woods just took a screenshot of Phil Mickelson's tweet saying, "I'd like to thank all the crazies, too, for helping me win the PIP." Tiger Woods just screenshotted it, tweeted it, and wrote, "Whoops," with this emoji.
What?
Woo! Tiger Woods wrote "whoops" on top of Phil thanking the PGA Tour for winning the fucking PIP 2 months ago.
That's the best thing I've ever seen.
With the emojis being like, oh, whoops. He did the fucking Jordan shrug. He gave him the Jordan shrug saying whoops.
Bro,
wow.
What?
Wow. I would never saw that coming. Not in 8 billion years did I see that tweet coming. Wow.
There you go. Tiger just won the 2022 PIP with that tweet right there. Congratulations to Tiger Woods.
Right.
Dude, that is so out of character in terms of his social media that I'm having a hard time wrapping my brain around it, that it actually happened.
I just tweeted that I just came.
Oh, my. What? Wow.
Wow.
You're right, Trent. That just won the PIP. That's
over.
It. It is. The social media, the MVP score is over. That's going to get,
not real.
that might get 100,000 retweets.
Yes. I'll take the over on that. That's going to get a preposterous amount.
Whoops. Dude, he's been killing this guy for 25 years. He's just fucking crushing him.
Dude.
Crushing him.
But he didn't even have a leg last year, and he defeated Phil Mickelson again. Phil finished second. Tiger finished first.
But even though he has been doing that for 25 years, he kind of lets everybody else do it for him, right? Or he lets this game speak for it. He doesn't usually take, to my knowledge, he's not usually taking a ton of shots. That's a shot. That's a fucking
Holy
shot.
moly! Wow! Wow!
Dude,
That's crazy.
dude, especially
That's a
it'd be
mic
one
drop.
thing if Phil Mickelson was still just regular Phil Mickelson having a regular Phil Mickelson life, but to put that tweet out while Phil is going through the most tumultuous stretch of his career is fucking savage.
Tumultuous is a
Thank
tough
you.
word to say. Nice work there, Trentani.
Tumultuous.
That's-
Holy
Tumultuous.
shit, is that a putt?
We're all having a hard time
Wow.
concentrating on the podcast.
boy.
We're looking at tweets.
It's great.
I can't.
I'm just
I
looking
said
at the
holy-
tweet and like rereading it.
I
and
just
being
said,
like,
"Holy shit, is that a putt?" I just said another golf term. I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. Is that a tweet? That is a fucking tweet.
that's crazy.
Whoops.
Tiger, you savage.
What a moment! I mean, this guy is. But he might have the best. Is he the favorite to win the Masters now, just because of that tweet?
He's
Feels
playing.
like it.
He's playing.
He's
He's
gotta
definitely
be
playing, by
playing.
the way. Yeah.
There's no way he's not
insane.
playing.
That's a guy who
Justin
this
National?
morning. That's a guy who this morning got clearance from the doctors, being like, "You can play in any tournament you want. That
He's
leg is
like-
looking great." And he's like, "All right, let me
like-
just bury Phil Mickelson on Twitter."
Hold
real
on, let me.
fast."
I've had this tweet in the drafts for a little while. Hold on here, and then we'll hit the range, boys.
Holy
Oh wow!
fuck!
What do you think Phil's
Not the
doing
tweet.
right now? Phil's got that notification.
He's trying to give the Saudis a call back, being like, "All right, was that deal still on the table or
Yeah,
what?"
I'll do
I
it for
gotta get out of here.
5%
that.
of the original fee. I
Sorry
gotta get
about
out
that
of here.
whole journalist comment I made. That was taken out of context there, boys. Let's get this. Let's get
Holy
this context going.
shit! What a
Wow.
tweet.
What do you think? Who do you think in Phil's camp has to be the one to show him this? Like, do you think they're all nudging each other? Like, yo, you need to text Phil that this just happened. Like, Phil's not scrolling through Tiger's Twitter right now.
I bet he might have Tiger notifications on,
Do you think
Also,
so?
keeping tabs on him.
people are at Phil,
buddy.
I'm sure, under the comments. Like, I'm sure
Yeah.
that he's aware.
He's seeing it.
I mean, everybody in the world is talking about this right now.
You think Phil has notifications on Twitter for his phone?
No, but
Maybe.
like, there's
Maybe.
enough. I mean, how much
Oh, I see what you're saying. No,
we've got?
But he-
1,200 retweets already, 5,000 likes.
Yeah, but if you're not on Twitter, I don't know that does anything for you in terms
Phil
of
probably
like,
has it like we
knowing.
do, where it's like if you follow the person, they follow you. You see it. What are we talking about here? Phil Mickelson's going to see it. It's going to be.
but
all
we're
over the
wondering
news.
how he saw it.
I'm not saying
he's-
I'm trying to get to when it gets to Phil. Like I don't like.
He's going to look at his
I
phone
think-
and see it.
So you think he has notifications on?
I think he probably saw that pop up. Yeah, I think him and Tiger follow each other. It's
Yeah,
impossible
true.
to get rid of those notifications. Those
Like
just
I
pop
follow
up.
you guys. We all follow each other. Like when we tweeted each other, it comes up on my phone.
Yeah, Tiger Woods just wrote "whoops" and he saw it come up on his phone, just like it says like "Simply Safe." There's been motion at your door. He's just like, I'm dead now.
Oh, but I guess he didn't tag Phil, did he?
No, he
He
didn't.
quote-
That's why.
Oh, he didn't quote tweet it.
He screenshotted it.
Oh yeah. So who knows? He definitely knows by now because, like Lurch is saying, people are tagging him like crazy under there. I would imagine. And if Phil just checks Twitter once, he'll be
Oh,
like,
he should have quote tweeted it. That would have been better. But I mean, it's still amazing.
Dude,
He
a
should have
whoops.
quote tweeted it.
You can't get it better than that. Just whoops.
I know. No, the response.
"You know what,
is-
Frankie? You know
it's
what?
just unbelievable.
A
That's
non-quote
unbelievable.
tweet does? It gets Phil no action.
Yeah.
If you just
Oh,
screenshot
true.
it, it gets Phil no action.
Yeah, it's even
Just
more
ruthless.
diabolical.
Wow, that is so diabolical. I mean, 7 minutes, he's got like 7,000 likes. Oh, what a stud.
Yeah, no, he's a
Wow.
fucking man.
Well, I think that means we throw it to Dr. Jim Afremow at this point. I think
Yeah.
that's a perfect ending to the show. We do have Dad Bod coming up, but we can just talk about we'll talk about it afterwards.
Holy
after it
smokes.
actually happens.
Yep.
Wow, Tiger Woods. Holy cow. I did not see that coming, boys. That is one of the more shocking tweets I've ever seen.
It's insane. I'll see you guys in maybe the greatest place on Earth. Is it argued to be the greatest stretch of land
I think people
on this
definitely argue
planet?
that.
The greatest meeting of land and sea, I think is what they call it. Pebble Beach, California.
Can't wait to be
Wow.
there. Honestly, my mind can't think about anything else other than what just transpired in that tweet of whoops.
Whoops.
Let's go play Pebble.
Whoops.
Oops.
Whoops.
Whoops. Whoops. Whoops. I mean, what a tweet. Wow. All right. Well,
Yeah.
boys, we're going to throw it to Dr. Jim Afremow. Let's have a great week at Pebble. I hope everybody enjoys the Arnold Palmer Invitational. It'll be Players Championship week when we return, and we'll have a lot to get to. We'll have to recap our Pebble trip. We'll have to talk about the players, and then Tiger Woods, will be getting inducted into the Hall of Fame Wednesday night. So Tuesday's show, we have David Faraday and we have Rocco Media, who tells incredible stories about Tiger 2008, the U.S. Open, and all that. So it'll be a big Tiger heavy show then.
Hit it hard.
Here's Dr. Jim Afremow. Hit it hard.
Hit it hard.
Hit it hard.
Hey, how's it going?
Not too bad. I heard you're going to be on the couch today.
Yeah, a little bit. A little bit.
That's exactly right. That is exactly right. Well, he's got his little 16th hole abandoned dunes behind him.
Yeah, so I moved from Scottsdale to Eugene, Oregon. So only 3 hours from Bandon.
Oh, wow. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
You must be a big golf guy then.
Well, that's not why I moved here, but but yeah, I do like golf.
Very cool. Well, so is it Afremow? Is that how, am I saying it right?
Afremow. Yep.
All right. Well, we're just going to pretty much hop right in. We're joined by a guest that we've been looking forward to having for a long time. I've got the book right here, The Leader's Mind. A couple quotes, really good quotes right at the beginning. We had Vince Lombardi, I saw. So it's all about champions, the mind of champions, professional athletes, what's made them successful. And obviously we on this show talk all the time about being unsuccessful, really, when it comes to playing golf and some of the issues that we have had. So, Dr. Afremow, tell me a little bit about the book. This is 2021, so it just came out last year. Is that right?
Yeah, it just came out a few months ago. So it's my fourth book. My first book I wrote when I was working at Arizona State University, and that's The Champion's Mind. And so that's all about peak performance and the mental game. And this book's a little bit more about teamwork and leadership, but also a little bit about the mental game as well. And, you know, we're all about self-leadership and then helping to be a good teammate and a leader to others. So I think it's a nice bookend to The Champion's Mind.
Yeah, so you've, like you said, this is your fourth book. This is something that, you know, you've committed an enormous amount of your life to, of your thoughts to. What's one thing that sort of sticks out to you maybe after all the research and all the things you've written in sort of a champion, like a really successful, you know, athlete or business person that surprised you that maybe you didn't go in and think that this was going to be such an important characteristic or whatever it might be?
Yeah, well, a lot of it boils down to mental toughness, which I like to look at, you know, in terms of the building blocks would be confidence, concentration, composure, commitment, those kind of things. But what really has surprised me over the years is, and this was so much different than when I was growing up, is, you know, if you're nervous before you perform or, you know, and we're going to be talking about the yips a little bit. I used to always think, and everyone used to always tell me, just relax, don't worry about it, you know, and take a deep breath. And some of that can be a little bit helpful. But what I've realized is the best athletes in the world, they love that adrenaline rush. I mean, that they ride that to a performance that they wouldn't have otherwise. And so it's more about embracing the nerves. It's more about loving that feeling inside instead of trying to push down the energy. Use that energy to do something that you couldn't do otherwise. So to me, it's more about, you know, anxiety is more about loving that feeling and embracing that rush. And, you know, Jack Nicklaus talked about, man, that's the fun part, coming up the 18th hole with the chance to win the tournament, win the Masters. And Tiger Woods talked about that as well. They love that feeling. And when they don't have that feeling, they try to recreate it. So you'll hear guys like Phil Mickelson talk about making these huge bets during practice rounds because otherwise, you know, he might be too bored. So, you know, we should learn to embrace the nerves instead of trying to get rid of them.
Yeah, you mentioned the yips, the Y word. You know, how real are they? And is it something that, you know, can be addressed? Is it a physical thing? A lot of people talk about it starts with technique and it's not about the brain. So what are your thoughts on the yips and you know, how can we help me is essentially the main question.
Yeah, well, we'll get to you in a minute. But yeah, contrary to popular belief, death or giving up the game aren't the only cures for the hip. So that's good news. But
I'll take two things off the list then.
A funny story. So when I moved out to Arizona way back in the day, I reached out to ASU Sports Medicine and said, you know, I was a sports psychologist at Michigan State, you know, graduated. You know, any opportunities for sports psychology at Arizona State University? And they said, well, you know, probably check back in a few weeks and, you know, we'll see what we can do. In the meantime, I got a call from the sports medicine doc, and he said, "Hey, man, we got a catcher on the baseball team with the Yips. Do you think you could help him?" So no pressure there. The first client I ever worked with at ASU had the Yips, and I think the baseball team was ranked, top 5 in the country at the time. And anyway, we really hit it off. There was some stress going on off the field that I think affected his performance on the field, but he had trouble throwing the ball back to the pitcher. And, but he could throw a guy out at second base. And so we worked on, focus and concentration, self-talk, all those good things, visualization. And he ended up turning it around pretty quick. And so then they offered me a job, full-time job. So I was at ASU for about 10 years, worked with the golfers, worked with baseball, worked with every sport. So that was a lot of fun, but it was interesting that was the first real test in my professional career, was a guy with the Yips.
Right. Yeah, no, it's, because it's been like 3 or 4 years, maybe even 5 years at this point, where I go to the short range and I'll go to the practice area, the chipping area, and I can, when there's no pressure, when there's no time to deliver, I'm fine. Obviously, I don't have the perfect technique. I'm not that great of a golfer. I don't know all the things I'm supposed to be doing. I can try and do it on the practice range, and I do it to my best ability. But, the product is always like, oh, yeah, that's actually pretty good. And then I go out there on the golf course, and nothing actually hits my mind. I'm not conscious about being nervous about it or freaking out. I don't feel tense. But there's just this doubt that it's going to happen, right? And that always kind of seeps into the back of my brain, being like, well, I'm very self-deprecating. I feel like I'm in a session now. I'm very self-deprecating, so I'll be like, well, boys, like, watch out here. The first thing I say to everyone is like, everybody look out. So I'm already setting myself up for failure, it feels like. But I wonder, like, what is it that, like, triggers that I can't just go from the short range to the first tee and just be like, oh, yeah, let's just do that?
Yeah. Well, what you're doing goes against pretty much everything that I teach. So,
okay.
No, but I love your sense of humor, and that's important, but I wouldn't go too far with it, because then it kind of can become a self-fulfilling prophecy. And the way our subconscious mind tends to work, it seems like, is, whatever we tell it, it kind of is really gullible and tends to believe. So if we're like, here we go again, or, we're kind of joking about it, then I think we kind of recreate that and we get those, visuals in our head, and then we produce that. So the mind-body connection is so powerful. The tension piece, even if you don't feel really tense, sometimes just that little extra tension, and that's what makes golf such a tricky game. That little extra tension can make a huge difference. So, I think a big one is just relax your jaw, relax your shoulders, soften your hands. I think that's really important. But yeah, the self-talk is really important, because in the back of our mind, here we go again, here we go again, here we go again. And that's where you got to tell yourself, it's going to be fine, it's going to be fine, it's going to be fine. So talking sense to yourself is really, really helpful. The other thing, there's a bunch of things, but one of the things that I think Earl Woods did really well with Tiger is they did what I call adversity training. So most of us just don't do this, but Tiger's dad was really smart from the military in terms of some of the adversity training that they went through. So the key is to make it, get your heart rate up higher than it would ever be on the course, and then try to take some putts and chips and, get used to that. The other thing too is Earl Woods would try to distract Tiger, on his backswing. So he would jingle, his keys, or, drop a golf bag. And Tiger learned just to ignore that over time. I'm sure the first few times he did it, or the first 25 times he did it, that really affected Tiger's swing. But after that, it was just almost like it didn't exist anymore. So little things like that you can do with your buddies can really help off the course or on the driving range. And then when you get on the course, it's like, no matter what happens out here, I've dealt with more distractions and a higher, heart rate than I'm dealing with now. So it actually gives you more confidence.
So when you're working with a golfer, are you ever on the golf course with them? And if so, like, what are you looking for, right? Like, are you like physically, are you telling them to do something physical? Are you telling them to think about something when they swing? Like, how do you kind of go about working with a golfer on the golf course?
Yeah, I love that. So what I'm looking for is, body language, obviously, but what happens after a shot, which is really interesting, is most of us cringe. And, it could be a short putt or, just any type of shot on the golf course. We cringe, and then that's where we get tight. So I look for, how do they respond after a not so good shot? The other thing too is under perceived pressure. And so this is important to think about when you're playing, is we tend to speed everything up. Some guys slow way down, but most guys tend to speed up in an effort to kind of get it over with. And I know I've done that too. It was interesting, in the background here, I have Bandon Dunes. So the first time I ever went out to Bandon, I drove 3 hours from Eugene. show up at the course, and they said, okay, we could get you out right now. So I had to rush over there to the first tee, and everyone's around the first tee. I brought my 10-year-old daughter with me. Everyone's, it felt like the whole world was watching. No one cared, but it felt like the whole world was watching. And I started like, I just want to get this shot over with. And that's where I said, you got to do what you preach. And so I took a step back, took an extra deep breath, said, slow everything down. And my only thought was tempo, tempo, tempo. And just, and I like the acronym JMAGS, just make a good swing. Don't try to make a perfect swing, just make a good swing. So I ripped it right down the middle, and I'm not going to tell you how far because that would ruin the story, but it was a good shot. And then after I got through that, I'm like, God, I'm so glad I got through that. Okay. And, but it was one of those where it was like, almost like it was just feeling like too much pressure. But then when you look back on it, it's like, that's what makes this fun, And so it's really trying to embrace that. And that's memorable. If no one was around at the first tee and I hit a, pretty good drive, then that's not memorable at all. So really enjoy those opportunities. And that's the thing. Do you guys remember a few years ago when Mississippi State women's basketball beat UConn in the Final Four? And I forget her name, but one of the players on Mississippi State, she made that game-winning shot. And they said, what did you see on that last play? And she said, I saw opportunity. And that was the coolest answer because it's like, we're always looking at kind of doomsday scenarios on the course, like, oh, if I miss this, it's going to ruin my score. Or if I miss this, the guys are going to really needle me. But instead of looking at, what bad things could happen, start looking at this, man, this is an opportunity to get up and down, or this is an opportunity to have a shot that I'm going to remember forever.
Yeah, that's an amazing way to look at it for sure. I mean, I think everyone listening to this, we all do that. And I think out of 10 scenarios for me, 9 of them are negative when I'm thinking of a shot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Don't hit this tree. Oh man, I'm not gonna be able to draw this around the tree. I'll just go left, or I can't get it up on that shelf and with this chip. I'll just putt it around, or oh, that looks way too slippery. I'm not gonna go. I don't want my next putt to be downhill. There's all these negative thoughts, and you're never actually saying, well, if I just putt it correctly and putt it to the bottom part of the hole, I'll have an uphill putt. Like, you know what I mean? I'm never saying the positive part. I'm always saying I don't want to do that because I don't want this.
Yeah, we're so negative, and all of us, and that's by default. We all have a negativity bias inbuilt, and it's to protect us. So human nature is to be safe, not to be successful. And so we have to overcome that. And that's what the best have done. They've learned to thrive in those situations. They've learned to talk back to that negativity. It was funny when I moved out to the first time I moved out to Arizona, kind of a random occurrence. And this was like 20 years ago. I ran into Hale Irwin. And we were talking, he was asking for directions. It's a long story, but the short end of it is I said, Hale, how's your golf game? And he didn't know me. I didn't really know him, but I mentioned ASU. And then, we were talking about golf. He was doing some golf opening way out in the valley. And I said, how's your golf game? And he looked at me like I was, just came from Mars or something. He's like, my golf game's always great. And, and at first I thought, God, what a jerk, most of us tend to go, my game sucks, or, I haven't played in a while. But he was just, I'm confident in my game. It's always good. And that really hit home for me afterward, thinking, man, it's good because, partly because that's how he thinks about himself. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Do you think at that point, for guys like Tiger Woods and the greats, especially in golf, because so many people can play this game, and then there's this elevated level of guys that are able to reach that professional level, and then there's another level of guys that can reach the Tiger levels, right? It's like the 1 or 2 guys in every sport. What is it about them? I know you mentioned Earl Woods and how he basically prepared Tiger for these moments, but is this something that you're born with that we can't even achieve? From your findings and your research, have you ever found any reason for why they are able to take that next step?
Yeah, well, they love to compete. They love to, be in the mix, and they do a whole lot of believing in themselves, and they're really selective about what they remember. I love the story of Jack Nicklaus. One time he was asked about missing a putt at the end of a tournament, and he's like, I don't remember that. And the guy's like, yeah, I was there. I saw you miss that putt. And he's like, I don't think that happened. And so, we tend to remember all of our bad stuff, and he just remembered his good stuff. So I think that there's, they're really selective on what they choose to remember about themselves, and whatever situation they're in, they always look at it as an advantage. So I love interviews back in the day with Tiger Woods where, he has a 5-shot lead, and most of us might be thinking, like, oh, I hope I don't blow it. He's thinking, man, I have a great cushion. I can make mistakes and still win this. And then, but yet on the other hand, if he's down by 5 going into the final round, hey, I've come back before from more than 5 shots. I could do this again. So he's always looking at any situation to his advantage. But the thing I love about the mental game is we could all learn to think more like that. So we don't have the swing speed of Tiger Woods or Rory McIlroy or those guys. But there really, truly is nothing preventing us from thinking like them. And that's why I like to say that no one's born with a champion's mind gene. And that's what's really fun. I've seen it over and over and over again, how we could all learn to think better and kind of be a champion in our own life.
Wow.
Store.barstoolsports.com. Merchandise. We love merchandise. Haven't been to a pro shop in like 10 years. I haven't decided to buy something. And it turns out people like our show. They like Barstool Sports. So we make all kinds of phenomenal merchandise ourselves. We're all wearing it right now. I got the Unreal hoodie on. I got this Travis Matthew hat on. Trent's got a Champion hoodie on. Frankie's got our new item, which I believe is a collaboration with KFC Radio, Kevin and Fights.
Yeah,
wow.
it's electric, man. I mean, it's everything that I love. It's golf, it's space, it's the moon. We use the KFC Radio Moon Man drawing. So it's our first collab with another podcast here at Barstool. I know it's KFC's first. I think it might be the first in Barstool history of 2 major podcasts collabing for one piece of merchandise with the 2 things that we like to do. They like to do the Moon Man. We like to talk about space. We like to golf. It's an amazing piece of artwork. This is coming out next week, so keep an eye out for it. I think Tuesday maybe. And we're also interviewing an astronaut next week, so that's going to be awesome. At the end of the day, go get this thing. And then also I'm teasing these hats. I don't know, we haven't talked about this, but maybe you can see that on the YouTube. We got some stuff coming out. So yeah, the Barstool Store is fucking phenomenal. We're crushing it. Our merch team crushes it every single day. You're going to get high quality stuff, really good designs. It's going to get shipped right to you. And we love you for supporting the brand.
Store.barstoolsports.com. Go check it out. Go check out the Foreplay page. Barstool Golf. We got all kinds of good stuff in there. Like I said, hoodies, pullovers, we got polos, we got accessories, head covers, hats, all kinds of great stuff, towels, tees, everything. So please go check it out. Store.barstoolsports.com. It's interesting because golf is spoken about probably more than any other sport or game as how mental it is. And one thing that I really wanted to ask about is consistency because, we all, to a degree, everyone that plays golf on the weekend, even if you're a 25 handicap, if you're a 5 handicap, if you're a scratch, we can all hit a drive straight down the middle. And then we can all hit a 7-iron pretty much right where we're aiming, the yardage we want it to go. And we can all hit a putt right on line, but we can't do it consistently. We know we can do it, but we don't do it consistently. We might only do it 1 out of 5 times or whatever it might be. From a mental approach and your expertise, how can people work on finding the ability to do it consistently when they know they can physically do it? They just don't do it, a high rate of success.
Yeah, that's a brilliant question because even though sometimes we think that physically we're doing the same thing, mentally we're doing something different each time. And so we're talking about the doomsday thinking, kind of like, oh my God, if I miss a shot, it's going to ruin the round, or, guys are going to rip on me for the rest of my life, or, whatever. Then there's outcome thinking where we tend to start thinking about, more in a positive way, but it really gets an adrenaline spike in the wrong way where we start thinking, if I make this, then I could break 80, or if I get off to a good start, today's going to be a good day. We start getting way too ahead of ourselves. But the ideal is, and we've heard this a million times, and I wish I could come up with a better word than process thinking, but process thinking would be just, again, good tempo, put a good swing on it. That's it. So keeping it really simple and kind of living in the target, not getting too mechanical. The thing for the top players is they tend to get too mechanical. And I see that with a lot of baseball guys too. So they'll go up to bat and I'll say, remember, it's watch the ball and then whack the ball. It's not watch the ball, think about mechanics, then whack the ball. And but so consistency, having routines. And so one baseball guy I'm working with for the Yankees, he said, man, I never really thought about that. My physical routine is the same every time, but mentally I'm thinking, I got to get a hit, or it could change. And so he said, how am I going to, that'd be like changing my batting stance every time. So he said, I need to know exactly what I'm going to think each time. And Tiger and those guys have talked about that too. He said, just knowing that when he shows up to a tournament, his warm-up routine and then his pre-shot routine are not going to vary at all really helps him to be more consistent because he could let it unfold in front of him. And it's kind of gives you the sense of calmness. Like, I don't know the outcome of the shot or today's round, but I do know, so there's that uncertainty that we tend not to like and causes anxiety, but I do know the certainty of my routine. So having a good mental and physical routine is really powerful.
It's really interesting because we talk a lot about how little control we have over what we're thinking about over shots and what really is going on. There are times in my mind where I'm thinking literally in my head about like, man, am I going to catch up with that burger at the turn or not? Like literally thinking that as I'm pulling the club back. And then there's other times when I'm playing really well where I think I'm probably thinking about closer to the right thing. And I remember, Tiger Woods in 2008 when he made the putt to win, to force a playoff 15-footer down the hill, must make, and he'd been through everything and the broken leg and a chipping in for eagle and all the crazy stuff. And they asked him after, and he's got on the Poana greens and it's bumpy and it could bump this way. And he said, all I thought was just make a pure stroke. That's it. And he said, I can't control if it bounces, if it doesn't break as much as I think. I can't control any of that. All I could do is make a pure stroke, and that's it.
See, that I love that story because under pressure, simple wins. But simple seems too simple for us, so we overthink it. And the greats are just good at see target, hit target. And we think that that's too easy, But so we add in all these others. But yeah, it's really about I'm either going to make it or not. Might as well make it kind of attitude.
Yeah. That's wild. That's just wild to me. We had so I was just watching this morning. This made me think of you. I was watching this morning the Steph Curry video from last night in warm-ups of him just making everything you can imagine.
I saw that.
Yeah, and we had JJ Redick on last week, and he talked about Steph Curry. I think he said like his flow state, when he just gets in that flow state and it's more elevated than anybody's ever been. When you watch someone like him and you hear that kind of terminology, where do you sort of extract that back to of him being able to shoot the way he does and be able to put up a video in warm-ups like that video from last night? I mean, how does someone like you break that down?
Yeah, well, it looked like a video game. I mean, it didn't look real, right? I mean, it's amazing. And but again, it gets back to, in that moment, he's just thinking or just feeling probably just good tempo. His mind is focused on the basket and he's doing it over and over and over again. And so he's able to just kind of get out of his own way and let it happen. Whereas I think the issue for most athletes, especially in those kind of pressure situations, is we tend to get in our own way. And so that's why I love about the mental game, because if I can't kind of, overcome what's going on inside of me, then how am I going to beat you or beat the course or, whatnot? But yeah, that's flow. I mean, he gets on cloud nine, doesn't he? And it just looks effortless. Oh. And that's the thing. It's effortless power, where most of us are trying to force things and it becomes like powerful effort, so. Yeah. But I love watching that and that's why we love sports, is because it shows us what's possible, and it shows us, what we could kind of strive for in our own way. But yeah, I mean, that's a lot of work, and he's a mastery performer. He treats practice like the game. And so then when he gets to the game, he could almost treat it like practice.
Since that was insane, 16 straight shots. I mean, half court all the way down to 3.
Is that what it was? 16?
I think it was 16 straight. I was talking to my buddies. I'm pretty sure that I'd have a better chance of making a hole-in-one before I did that. Like if you told me I had this unlimited time to make 16 shots or a hole-in-one, I think I'd make the hole-in-one first. That's how hard that is.
Yeah, I mean, that was fun. And that's what's fun is for all of us, we might not have highlights like that, but to create our own memory bank of our own highlights. And, what's interesting though, guys, is that most of the athletes all of the athletes that I work with at, high school, college, pro, Olympic level, I'll ask them, how often are you in that state of mind, when you're in the zone? And it's a lot less than most people think. It's about 10% of the time at most. Some guys might say, yeah, for a whole round, I was, pretty close to that. But the thing is I like to look at it as micro flow too, that just even if we're not in the zone, we could get a little bit closer to it if we think the right way.
It's funny, the zone. I was watching the Disney movie Soul, or the Pixar movie, and he gets into the zone when he's playing the piano, and they actually show a physical representation. I don't know if you've seen it before. It's pretty interesting. Like they show a visual representation of like this extra realm of all of these greats entering this zone, and like it's obviously a Disney movie, so everything's like floating, and he almost feels like the keys are going with him into the sky, and then he comes back to Earth, and everyone was like talking to him and screaming at him like, why are you still playing? You know what I mean? He didn't even know what was happening. So it's interesting to hear you say that you asked people about the zone, because that's one of the main parts of that movie. I just watched it, and it's like, man, how real is that? Are people actually getting so dialed in? Like the greats, are they getting so dialed in that they don't even know their surroundings? I've talked to a couple of hockey players that I've become buddies with, and I'm like, isn't all that crowd noise insane and people banging on the... He's like, we don't see it, man. We're just... We take it like, I need to get this puck into that net, and that's all I'm worrying about.
Yeah, it's amazing the state of mind that they could enter in. One of the Olympic athletes that I just worked with, she's one of the top ice dancers. Her and her partner did really well at the Olympics, and they have two performances, and there's like a free dance and a rhythm dance. And I said, how, we were emailing back and forth. And I said, how was the rhythm dance? And she said, I don't know. I need to watch it on video because I don't remember it, because she did it that well. And that's the thing too. It's fun. I love hearing stories like that. One Olympic wrestler that I worked with, I said, tell me about your best match ever. And he said, I can't. And I'm like, come on, you can tell me. I'm your sports psychologist. He said, no, I can't. I said, come on, you can tell me. He goes, no, I don't remember it. It's not that I don't want to tell you. I just don't remember even being there. And Tiger's talked about that too. It's like, I know I was there, but I don't remember what, before the shot, I remember, after the shot, but I don't remember kind of during the shot. Isn't that amazing? It's just
what happens to the muscle? Isn't there muscle memory that goes into like actually performing those things? Like, how are they not remembering it? How are they so just like, it's almost like they're on autopilot, but like, how are they then reaching the other parts of their brain to actually do the thing? You know what I'm saying? Well, how is Tiger actually hitting a stinger iron if he doesn't even know what's going on? He's just like completely on another planet.
Well, you just made a really important point, is they're not accessing other parts of their brain. And that's the good thing, is we start activating too many parts of our brain, like our frontal lobe. We start thinking about it, and what does this mean and all that stuff. They're just, it's almost like their limbic system. Like you said, it's kind of like a muscle memory. I don't know if muscles really do have memories, but I like saying that. But yeah, they just kind of almost get out of their own way. And the interesting thing, it's like they become the performance. It's really fascinating. And we've all had glimpses of it, but instead of giving a performance, the performance is giving them.
Well, what's your thoughts on muscle memory? We hear that all the time. Like, you have to make 1,000 putts and you'll just remember how to do that. Is there any truth to that, or what's your beliefs on that?
Yeah, you definitely need competence, I'm big on the mental game, but you definitely need the physical talent. And the way to get that is just reps, but being present during those reps. And so really deliberate practice, I think, is important. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of training it. That's the whole thing is Bob Rotella with Golf Is Not a Game of Perfect. It's training it and then trusting it. And when you trust it, know that it's in there. So with the Olympic athletes for the Winter Games, one of the analogies we were using is, it's almost like have a performance piggy bank, and you pack it with as many gold coins as you can, in practice, work getting those reps in. And then when it's time to perform, just empty out the bank account. Just have fun spending the money, and all that talent's in there. So let it out.
That's when you say be present during the reps, what exactly does that mean?
Yeah. So when I worked with San Francisco Giants, I was the sports psychologist for the San Francisco Giants, and I would see the better players like Posey and Bumgarner and Crawford and Panic and all these guys. When they're practicing, I mean, they're serious. They're locked in. It's almost like you could walk by them and they won't see you because they're just so focused. And so every rep is high quality. When they're lifting weights, when they're throwing, when they're warming up, it's just really high quality. Whereas some of the other guys, some of the younger guys or, some other guys that weren't performing as well, they're kind of goofing around a little too much. There's a time and a place for that because you got to have fun with it. But the guys get the most out of practice. And Kobe Bryant said this once. He said, it's not how many hours you put into practice, it's how many hours your mind is present during practice. Wow. So a lot of guys... Yeah, and not to be too hard on ASU, but when I would go watch some of the practices from different sports, different teams, I would start seeing guys look at their watch or look at the clock, like 10 minutes before practice ended. Whereas these other guys, they're just like, oh, practice is over because they're just so in the moment.
Yeah, I remember and we are always going to talk about Tiger because he's probably he's our favorite guy, but from Hank Haney's book, he would talk about Tiger's practice sessions, and he'd said they would, Hank would give him something. Tiger would hit 2 or 3 balls. Then he would go sit in the cart and just look out and think about it for a few minutes. He's like, he would just sit in the fucking cart and he would just look, and he wouldn't hit a single ball. And then he would come back to the range and hit a few and be like, all right, I got it. And Hank's like, I never saw anybody do that.
Yeah, his visualization skills are off the charts. And so that's one thing that I think all of us can do better at, because, it doesn't take up a lot of time, and it's fun. And so spend a couple of minutes visualizing yourself hitting great shots, or, like if you're working on your swing, picture yourself, swinging flawlessly a couple times. And I remember one athlete said to me, does that stuff really help? And I said, well, a lot of people do say it helps. I think Jack Nicklaus said he never missed a putt in his mind. I love that quote. But one of the things that he was realizing as we were talking about this is that, well, it's not going to hurt, so why not do it? And it could only help. And so he really found it really, really helpful. And that's where a lot of guys have said, like I work with a lot of injured athletes. And so we talk about get your mental reps in, even though you can't get your physical reps in. And I've had a lot of guys return back to their sport and say, man, it almost feels like I never left my sport because I kept playing it in my head.
It's amazing. It's obviously not a negative because you've been so amazingly successful with this, but has it driven you crazy knowing like your whole life exactly how to go about things? Like, and then in your own mind, you have to now practice what you preach, right? Like that would drive me, having all this knowledge about how you're supposed to perform in certain situations. And then like, if your brain just takes you to another place, you have to, everything. Like we're coming to you because you're giving us the information, but it's all in your head. So does that ever drive you freaking nuts?
A little bit, but but I love that though, because I'll have the same thing. Like if I go play golf, it's like, well, you're supposed to be good at this because you know this or that, but you still need to practice it. But no, it's been helpful, and that's what I love about the mental game is it helps with everything. So for example, writing these books, I'm not a natural writer. And so I had to practice all the stuff, in terms of self-talk. I don't feel like doing this. Well, you're going to do this, like those kind of things. And then I would visualize myself holding the final product, like holding the book and, how good that would feel. So using self-talk, visualization, goal setting, it really does work. My only regret is I wish I knew this stuff earlier in my life.
What drew you to this? Like, was it something that happened in your life that you needed to like pursue it or see it? Like what drew you to this field?
So when I grew up in Portland, Oregon, and I played a ton of different sports, and I would always ask, I was just curious. And so I'd always ask questions. What do you do, when you're in a slump, or what do you do? And people would look at me like, well, you just try harder, or what do you do when you get nervous before, a big track meet, or, well, you don't worry about it, so I never got satisfying answers. So then I got more and more curious about that. And then I started realizing, well, there's something called sports psychology, and is, kind of in its infancy, so to speak, at that time. And so I started reading more about visualization, self-talk. I'm like, why aren't they teaching this stuff in school? This is the real stuff, this is important stuff. So then and it's just been a fun journey learning more and more. And then when I meet with a lot of, really amazing athletes, I get to learn from them too. And so that's a lot of fun, hearing their stories. And again, they're all more similar than they are unalike, in the sense that champions in one sport think like champions in a different sport. The other thing too is a lot of athletes still don't talk about this. I do think it's the final frontier. Some athletes are kind of, what I'd call like a freakazoid, where they're so good they never had to be mentally tough. But then when adversity strikes, they don't know what to do. So how do I calm my nerves in these situations? Or how do I, if my confidence takes a big hit, how do I get it back on track?
It's amazing. We just had Matt Duchene on the Nashville Predators on. He talked a lot about this. He was very open about, you got to attack the mental side of golf, of hockey, whether it's, that's perceived as a negative or positive. You just got to be able to do it. And he says it's so opening and freeing to be able to now attack that part of his game, fix that part. He says it makes him better on all aspects. He's a better teammate. He's a better person. He's a better player. It is amazing how it is very new. And no one's really, it's definitely getting more, approved, and people are not so quick to like make fun of it anymore, which is awesome to say. It's like, oh, you need therapy to like figure out how to play a sport. Well, no, but there's so many things that go into that sport that you do need to talk it out.
Yeah, well, it's become sports psychology has become sexier. When I first started, it was like, what was the old saying? Like, 20 years ago, if you told a sports psychologist, or if you told anyone you were seeing a sports psychologist, people thought you were crazy.
Yeah.
And now they think if you're not seeing one, that you're crazy.
Yeah.
Uh,
That's
and that's
amazing.
and that's the thing too. Is it's sports has become so global and so competitive, and the margin for error is so small. It's like, people might say, well, Ben Hogan didn't have a sports psychologist, or Jack Nicklaus didn't have a sports psychologist. Well, they also didn't play with people that had a sports psychologist, or against people that had them,
Yeah.
and they also had really good mental games. So I mean, that's the common denominator is the mental game.
Have you ever talked about dreams that athletes have? And like for me, I'm not calling myself an athlete, but I'll always be in a dream. I call it a nightmare. And I got called up by the New York Islanders, and they needed me to play, and I can never get on the ice. So like it's my time to go, and I could never do it. And I have it maybe 5 to 6 times a week. And I just something happens. I just can't tie my laces. I just can't get up there. Someone calls me. It's crazy. Have you ever heard that? I think it's a pretty common thing
It's
across.
super common. Yeah, I think we all have that, is where it's just kind of, we're in this worst case kind of Armageddon scenario where, we just, it's our biggest moment. We can't deliver for some reason. I do think there's a physical part of that where the body kind of, we're kind of paralyzed when we sleep, so we don't start swinging a club or, doing those kind of things. So I think that's some of it that kind of holds us back. But yeah, those fears are really interesting. I think it's just human nature. We all have fear of failure, a little bit of fear of success, like the better I do, the better I have to do. Like some of the Olympic athletes that I work with, they're so excited to make their first Olympics, but now it's like, okay, you made it, you finished top 10 or whatever. Are you going to win next time? Are you going to be on the podium next time? So now the expectations are crazy, and that's 4 years away. So, just like, and that's what's amazing about guys like Tiger. He's one of my all-time favorites too. I mean, he surpassed all those expectations early in his career. He just didn't meet them. He surpassed them, which is unbelievable.
So with Tiger, and now you see Charlie, do you have any thoughts about, everyone says don't put that much pressure on a 12-year-old, or like he shouldn't be in the limelight, he should just be a regular kid. Like our thoughts are his dad's Tiger Woods, so he's already in that limelight. Why not have the confidence? Why not be in front of the camera? Why not just attack it while you can? I mean, he's going to have a leg up than everyone else. What do you think about, Charlie and his trajectory up?
Yeah, I love what you're saying. It's kind of like when athletes say, how can you help me get rid of the pressure? And that's when I'll say, you're going to have to give your clubs away, because if you're going to keep playing, there's always going to be pressure because it's important to you. It's meaningful. So I love what you said is there's going to be pressure around him and a lot of, media around him. So you might as well embrace it and use it to your advantage somehow.
Yeah.
But I loved, do you remember the father-son deal where Tiger was talking to Charlie and he said, remember, these are the same shots just that we play on our, on our home course. They're the same shots out here, same distance, same whatever. And then, so I love that, it's just like, a 100-yard shot is the same as a 100-yard shot. And then, but also he said, hey, it's just us. Just get in our own little world, kind of put a bubble around us and just be in the moment and with each other. So Tiger's given him some pretty good advice that we could all take.
It's amazing because we work with this company, BetterHelp. They sponsor a good amount of our shows, and it's about online kind of therapy and basically working on the mind. And one of the quotes that they always use, it's really good. It's like, you go to the range, you work on your 9-iron, the physical aspects of it. You work on your driver, you work on your chipping or your putting. You go to the gym and you work on all these physical things. And then everybody knows that the mind is just as important, yet very few, people, or very little of the time do we ever actually work on our mind. We just expect it when we're on the course. All of a sudden our mind's supposed to just be performing at 100%. Like if you never practiced it and worked on your mind, it'd be like if you'd never hit a driver in your life and then you walk on the first tee and you're like, I'm just going to drive one down the middle. Like, no, you've never practiced it. So it makes a lot of sense that if you don't truly work on your mind and the physical or the mental aspect of it, there's a good chance it's not going to perform to the level you need it to perform.
Yeah, and that's the great thing again is that you have to train it, and the other thing too about the mental game is it's not like, well, okay, now I understand it and I don't have to worry about it. It's just like you said with your driver or putting or whatever, you have to keep refining it, working on it. But what I love about the mental game again is it doesn't have to take up that much time. I think that's a big fear of most of us. Amateurs, it's like, I don't have the time. I don't even have the time to play as much golf as I want. Where am I going to find the time? It doesn't take up much time, or the pros especially. And again, it just makes it more fun.
Yeah, for sure. Well, look, we really appreciate it. This is fascinating. It's a whole new realm, like you said. It's a little bit of the last frontier. It feels like for golf and a lot of sports, and people kind of trying to master the mind a little bit. So we appreciate it, Dr. Jim Afremow. Check out the book. I got it right here, The Leader's Mind. What are the other three? A Champion's Mind is one of them, right?
The Champion's Mind, and then if you're going to be a champion, there's going to be a lot of setbacks. So I came out with the Champion's Comeback, and then the Young Champion's Mind. So that's more for teens.
Okay, awesome. Well, again, we appreciate it. We got to get you back on and update you, on how we're doing on our mental approach. But we really do appreciate the time.
Thanks, Riggs. Thanks, Frankie. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. Really appreciate it.
Yep. Have a great day, gentlemen.
Thanks, you too.
Bye now.